That's when I realized, during the college entrance exam, I completely lost control and had a breakdown. The campus beauty bound herself to the gentle as chrysanthemum system. The more laid back she is, the better she does on exams. Meanwhile, my deskmate, who always sticks up for her, ended up with plummeting grades. In the end, she got into Tsinghua University and flew off into the sunset with her wealthy boyfriend. Yet I was expelled from the exam hall for suddenly losing my mind during the test, to be struck down by a car on the road. Lost in a daze. Back in my senior year, I stopped helping the school beauty who always played the easygoing card. Her system ended up malfunctioning instead. In the Gaokao exam hall, I was sweating profusely and consumed with anxiety. The questions were all so familiar, yet my hands felt like lead, unable to solve a single one. The school beauty, Mu Qingqing, who was in the same exam hall, had already breezed through to the later, more challenging questions. I kept rereading the first question over and over, but I just couldn't make sense of it. The school belle glanced back at me, her eyes gleaming with the smug satisfaction of a scheme well executed. I didn't understand what she meant, only to hear a mechanical voice suddenly sound, "It's all over." My sanity snapped like a taut string. I began to scream hysterically, tearing at the exam papers while laughing and crying. Once the papers were shredded, I mindlessly ripped at my own clothes. My half-naked body was clawed bloody and raw by my own frenzied hands. I am lucidly aware of my own madness, yet powerless to resist the force that drives me to it. I could only stand there helplessly as I watched myself throw my dignity to the ground and stomp it into pieces. The other examinees around me scattered in fright, staring at me with terrified eyes. Only Mu Qingqing watched with a sinister smile as I was dragged out of the exam hall by the security guards called by the invigilator, just as the media was sensationalizing the story of my public breakdown in the National College Entrance Exam Hall. Driven by overwhelming pressure, my dazed and confused self had already been struck and killed by a speeding vehicle on the street. It was only after my death that I learned Mu Qingqing had bound herself to as serene as a chrysanthemum system. The more detached and zen-like she became, the better her exam scores would be. Meanwhile, I, who was always standing up for her and ranked among the top 3 in my grade, suddenly felt like all my exam luck had been drained away. My grades plummeted. No wonder she insisted on sitting next to me no matter what. Get close to me, butter me up, and become my bestie. So she'd already picked me as her target long ago. Every time I stand up for her in a moment of need, after she's earned my complete trust, she takes a piece of my academic luck away. Until the college entrance exam took away all my luck, she got into Tsinghua University, accepted a confession from the wealthy campus bully, and became the envy of everyone. But I, robbed of my exam luck by the system, went mad and lost my mind on the day of the college entrance exam. Ultimately, all fortune is lost, leading to death. I woke up again to find myself in my senior year's classroom. Mu Qingqing was being held down in her seat by Lin Lu, the fiancé of the school bully, who was slapping her. "You bitch. How dare you steal my man? I'm going to beat you to death today." Bound by her persona, Mu Qingqing couldn't fight back and could only call out my name in desperation, Li Zi, hoping I would step in to help her. Just like I always did in my past life, I rushed forward without hesitation and fought Lin Lu to protect her. From that moment on, Lin Lu held a grudge against me and subjected me to a year-long campaign of school bullying, and Mu Qingqing took advantage and still acted innocent. When we were called to the teacher's office, she instead blamed me for everything. "Li Zi, you were too impulsive. You shouldn't have gotten physical with her." The teacher, who was already unhappy with my slipping grades, now had an even bigger problem with me, but at the time, all I could think about was whether she was hurt. Looking back now, it's just ridiculous. This time, I didn't move a muscle, just staring at the glaring 48 marks in red on the test paper in my hand. Hatred surged within him too. "Li Zi, help me." Seeing that I wasn't moving, Mu Qingqing called out to me again, her voice filled with anxiety. I looked up and gazed at her calmly. Her face was swollen and red from the blows, yet a flicker of venom flashed in her eyes. Right after that, I heard the system's notification sound warning. The designated benefactor failed to intervene on the host's behalf immediately. The host's examination fortune is declining. Mathematical comprehension -5. Physics formula retention -3. Mu Qingqing was clearly flustered. She broke free from Lin Lu's grasp, pointed at me, and shouted, "Li Zi can prove that Lu Jia and I are really just siblings. Li Zi, say something." All eyes in the class were on me. Lin Lu also raised an eyebrow at me. "Can you prove it? In my past life, it was right here that I stepped forward and defended Mu Qingqing with righteous indignation, claiming she's pure and innocent, and that her relationship with Lu Jia is nothing more than a platonic friendship. So, what's the outcome? Lin Lu resents me, and the whole class sees me as Mu Qingqing's lackey. They call me Little Li behind my back, saying I must have been a wretched eunuch in ancient times. This time, I didn't defend Mu Qingqing. Instead, I just mimicked her usual sickly sweet, manipulative tone and said softly, "Well, it's hard for me to say, although Qingqing often goes to find Lu Jia right after class, hugging and clinging to him with no sense of boundaries, and sometimes she's not at evening self-study, claiming she's studying with Lu Jia. Oh, right, last week, I also Saw Qingqing receive a necklace from Lu Jia. It was from a pretty expensive brand. As for what their relationship really is, if Qingqing says they're brothers, then they're brothers. As soon as he finished speaking, someone in the classroom let out a sneer. What the hell kind of brother is that? I want a brother like that too. Hate female buddies the most, using the excuse of brotherhood to do all sorts of sly, couple-like things. Who knew she was that kind of campus beauty, acting so pure and innocent all the time? Is Little Lee finally seeing sense today, or has he switched sides? Mu Qingqing's face instantly drained of all color. The system's voice sounded once more. Warning, warning, the scapegoat has refused to defend the host and is instead shifting blame. Exam luck is rapidly declining. English vocabulary -10, chemical equation memory -8. Mu Qingqing pointed a trembling finger at me, her voice shaking with disbelief. Li Zi, you're lying. How could you spread rumors to hurt me? We're supposed to be best friends, best friends. I laughed. Exactly, that's why I'm telling it like it is. Lin Lu grew even more furious upon hearing my words and immediately slapped Mu Qingqing twice across the face. You slut, hugging and cuddling, accepting a necklace, studying together, and you call yourselves just friends. I hate that girl bro act the most. I didn't. Li Zi is the one slandering me. Mu Qingqing let out a piercing scream. Her usual serene and detached demeanor completely shattered. The system issued another urgent reminder. Exam luck is continuously declining and is about to fall below the safety threshold. Host must quickly regain the trust of the designated benefactor, or face an electric shock penalty. Hearing the system's prompt, Mu Qingqing summoned strength from somewhere deep within and violently broke free from her restraints. She rushed up to me and grabbed my hand. Li Zi, I'm begging you, please put in a good word for me. Tell her what you just said isn't true. Lu Jia and I are really just friends. Do you remember the class fund incident? I was the only one who believed you, the only one who spoke up for you. You were only cleared of suspicion because of me. You can't repay my kindness with betrayal now. At the mention of the class fund, my eyes turned cold. In my past life, the class lost 5,000 yuan in class funds, which were eventually found in the inner pocket of my backpack. Everyone was saying that since I came from a poor family, it must have been me who stole it. Only Mu Qingqing stood by my side, saying she believed in me. I was moved beyond words, and from that moment on, I regarded her as the most important person in my life. The surveillance footage later confirmed it was an outside thief who had stolen the money and, in a panic, stuffed it into my backpack before he could get away with it. Looking back, it seems all of this was likely orchestrated by Mu Qingqing herself, all to gain my trust and make me her blood bag on the road to the college entrance exam. Oh, the class fund matter. I gently withdrew my hand. You know, I heard someone say they saw you, Qingqing, talking to that thief after school that day. What are you implying? Mu Qingqing's voice turned shrill. I shrugged. Nothing, really. It just came to mind. Lin Lu is now completely convinced by my words. She grabbed Mu Qingqing by the hair and slammed her head against the wall. I'm going to show you today exactly what happens when you mess with someone else's fiancé. The system's punishment beat Lin Lu to the punch, detected that the sucker has refused to assist the host 3 times, administering electric shock punishment to the host now. Mu Qingqing's body went rigid, her face drained of color, and then she began to convulse uncontrollably. Then his eyes rolled back and he frothed at the mouth. Lin Lu was so frightened that she immediately let go of her, watching Mu Qingqing collapse to the ground. Convulsing uncontrollably, my gaze turned dark, so refusing to help her would not only bring back my luck in exams but also teach her a lesson. A faint smile touched my lips. Mu Qingqing, this time, I won't let you off so easily. You 3. Mu Qingqing's appearance frightened everyone who had gathered around. What's wrong with her? Is it epilepsy? Quick, call the teacher. Lin Lu thought she had caused Mu Qingqing's illness and, terrified, ran away on the spot. Mu Qingqing was also taken to the infirmary by the teacher who rushed over. The teacher let her go home to rest. After hearing that everything was all right, the next day, Mu Qingqing came to class as usual. She put on a full face of makeup, probably to cover up the handprint on her cheek. A breakfast was placed before me. Li Zi, I don't blame you for what happened yesterday. Right off the bat, they turned the tables and blamed me. I know you must have had your reasons for saying that. I brought you breakfast. Let's make up and get back to how we used to be. Okay. Mu Qingqing's voice was soft, but her gaze was fixed intently on me. Inside the paper bag were a sandwich and a warm glass of milk, things I'd never treat myself to on a regular day. In a past life, I would have been utterly moved by such sincerity. Now I just feel sick to my stomach. She just wants to keep using me as her personal ATM. I've already eaten. I pushed the paper bag back. Mu Qingqing's smile froze for an instant before she quickly composed herself. Consider it my apology. My attitude wasn't great yesterday either, I said. I've already eaten. My firm refusal made Mu Qingqing clench her fingers in anger, crumpling the paper bag. She was about to say more when the class bell rang and the teacher walked in. The first class was a math quiz. My hands were trembling slightly as I took the exam paper, but I managed to keep them steady. The despair and fear of being unable to solve problems in my past life still linger in my mind. I take a deep breath, casting aside all distracting thoughts, the problem-solving approaches and formulas gradually take shape in my mind. I begin to solve one problem after another with smooth, fluid ease. In stark contrast, Mu Qingqing beside her kept gnawing on her pen, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. The test results came out soon after. Mu Qingqing only scored a 72 in her past life. By this time, she could consistently score above 130 in math. The math teacher frowned. His displeasure deepened upon seeing Mu Qingqing's meticulously applied makeup. Mu Qingqing, what is the meaning of this? You come to school to study, not to chase after boys. It was clear he already knew about the fight between Lin Lu and Mu Qingqing over Lu Jia the day before. Mu Qingqing lowered her head and spoke softly. Teacher, I'm just not feeling well this time. If you're not feeling well, go see a doctor right away. The college entrance exam is coming up soon. Don't let it affect your studies. The math teacher finished speaking and turned to me. His eyes filled with relief and encouragement. Lazy, you've made progress on today's quiz. Keep up the effort. I believe you can catch up. I saw Mu Qingqing staring fixedly at the 98-point test paper in my hand, her nails digging into her palm. Just then, the system's notification chime sounded once more. Exam luck has fallen below the safety threshold. Host, please quickly gain the trust and assistance of the designated benefactor, or your exam luck will continue to decline. So, the moment class ended, she couldn't wait to ask for my help. For Mu Qingqing pulled me into a corner of the hallway. Li Zi, please, you have to help me today. Her voice trembled with tears, full of pleading. Gone was her usual air of superiority. Lin Lu is coming after me again today with her crew. There's really nothing going on between me and Lu Jia, but she just won't listen. Please, please walk home with me after school today. I know you're the best. You wouldn't just stand by and watch her pick on me, right? In my past life, it was also at this time. Lin Lu threatened to corner her, and Mu Qingqing turned pale with fright. I felt bad for her and offered, I'll walk you home. She won't dare do anything stupid. Mu Qingqing held my hand tightly, moved to tears. Li Zi, you're so wonderful. You're my best friend. For so long isolated, I lost myself in all those cries of best friend. So what? Then we got cornered in the back alley by Lin Lu and her crew. When Lin Lu was about to slap Mu Qingqing, I stepped in and took the blow. Hit me if you want to fight, I yelled back. Then Lin Lu smiled. All right then, I'll let you have your way. Their hands struck my face. Mu Qingqing just hid in the corner and watched me get beaten, not taking a single step forward. Later, Lu Jia arrived. He rushed into the alley, shot Lin Lu a look of disgust, and then took Mu Qingqing away, and she left with Lu Jia without so much as a glance in my direction. She apologized to me afterward, saying she was so shocked she didn't even react before Lu Jia pulled her away. As for me, left behind, I bore all of Lin Lu's fury. She pinned me down and snapped my arm. The pain was etched into my bones, still vivid in my memory. I looked down at my hands, still whole and unmarked. The fingers were slender, without a single scar. Li Zi, I'm begging you. Mu Qingqing was still waiting for my answer, her eyes fixed on me, full of calculation. I looked up and gave her a smile. Fine, Mu Qingqing, this time I want you to taste the bitterness of pain too. 5. After school, Lin Lu indeed brought some people to corner me and Mu Qingqing in the alley. Seeing me, Lin Lu let out a scornful laugh. Mu Qingqing, did you really think bringing along a lackey would keep you safe? Mu Qingqing instinctively ducked behind me. Her fingers clutched the back of my school uniform tightly, her voice tinged with hesitation. Li Zi, you'll protect me, won't you? Seeing the hopeful look in her eyes, I gave a faint smile. Just as Mu Qingqing was about to break into a delighted grin, I sidestepped and pulled my jacket from her grasp. I agreed to walk you home. That's all I promised. Mu Qingqing's face instantly darkened. Lin Lu burst out laughing. Haha, you two really are plastic sisters. I stood off to the side in a corner, as if it had nothing to do with me. Whatever issues you have, sort them out quickly. Warning, the sucker refused to provide shelter. Exam luck -8. Memory of physics formulas temporarily blurred. The system's notification made Mu Qingqing's face pale slightly. Lin Lu gave a wave of her hand, and 2 lackeys stepped forward, pinning Mu Qingqing's shoulders from either side. Mu Qingqing struggled to her feet and shouted at me, Li Zi, you promised me, you can't just stand by and let me die. Standing by while someone dies. I let out a cold laugh. You talk trash and get hated by classmates, but when I stick up for you and defend you, where were you when everyone was isolating me? Where were you when my grades were slipping? When my teachers were disappointed in me and using me as a cautionary tale? Where were you when I was taking the beatings, shouldering the blame, and being cursed by everyone for you, and now you're blaming me for not helping? Don't you find that ridiculous? Mu Qingqing was so anxious that tears streamed down her face. You can't do this to me. You just can't. Suddenly, an idea struck her, and she shouted at me, if you don't help me, I'm cutting you off. No one else would even want to be your friend. I was taken aback. In my past life, it was my profound loneliness that she always used to control me. In the end, I was forced to pay for this so-called friendship with my life. Seeing me like this, Mu Qingqing thought she had finally got me under control. She smiled and said, "If you help me today, I'll forgive you." But I lowered my head and grabbed her chin, saying, "Fine then, let's break ties." Mu Qingqing's pupils contracted sharply. Severe warning. The cash cow is about to sever ties with the host. Exam luck -15. Electric shock preparatory status activated. No, Mu Qingqing cried out in a panic, her eyes filled with desperate pleading. "You're my best friend, and we are never, ever breaking up." Lin Lu was baffled. What's with all this dramatic, star-crossed lover act? Just then, the rapid sound of footsteps suddenly echoed from the mouth of the alley. Lu Jia burst in, breathing heavily, clearly having rushed over in a hurry. "Let her go." His face darkened instantly when he saw Mu Qingqing pinned against the wall. Lin Lu raised an eyebrow. "You got here fast, young Master Lu, can't bear to be apart." Lu Jia ignored her and moved to pull Mu Qingqing away, but Lin Lu stepped sideways, blocking his path. "Lu Jia, I'm your fiancé. This tramp keeps throwing herself at you. What's wrong with me teaching her a lesson?" Lu Jia's jaw tightened. I could see the veins standing out on the back of his clenched fist. He was holding back. The Lin family is a key business partner of the Lu family, and this engagement is a marriage of convenience. He couldn't, not at least not yet, embarrass Lin Lu in public. Then he turned to me. "I know that look all too well. In my past life, he did the same thing, pouring all his fury toward Lin Lu and his own sense of helplessness over the situation onto me. The scapegoat, Li Zi." He practically shouted it. "You just stood there and watched Qingqing get hit. Aren't you supposed to be her best friend?" Mu Qingqing saw her savior and cried out through her sobs. "Lu Jia, Li Zi won't help me. She's doing it on purpose." I met Lu Jia's angry gaze and suddenly smiled. "Lu Jia, who are you to get angry at me? Can't control your fiancé, so you take it out on me. Is it because I come from a humble background, have no connections, and am easy to push around?" Lu Jia was left speechless, his face darkening further. His fist shot toward me in a fit of rage. I spoke up, my voice low and measured. "Did you really think you were the only good buddy Mu Qingqing had?" Lu Jia froze. "What do you mean by that?" Mu Qingqing also stopped crying, her eyes wide with terror. 6. I looked into her eyes and said, word by word, "The class monitor from next door, the captain of the school basketball team, a sophomore from the arts class, and, do I really need to introduce each of the brothers in your phone contacts one by one?" Every word I uttered was like a knife, piercing precisely into Mu Qingqing's deathly pale face. "No, it's not like that." She shook her head frantically. "Lu Jia, just hear me out. Those were just what?" Lu Jia's voice was ice cold. "Just good buddies, Mu Qingqing. Do you take me for a fool?" He took a step back, his gaze towards her now laced with scrutiny and disgust for the first time, and Lin Lu burst out laughing. "Haha, I thought you two were so deep in love, but turns out you, Lu Jia, are just some school beauty's little pet fish." I'm dying of laughter. Mu Qingqing was completely flustered. She broke free from her attendant's grasp and lunged at Lu Jia, trying to seize his arm. "Lu Jia, you have to believe me. Li Zi is jealous of me. She's trying to drive a wedge between us." Lu Jia pushed her away. Mu Qingqing staggered backward, her tears finally breaking through. She glared at me, her eyes sharp with venom, yet restrained from lashing out due to system limitations. "Can only desperately beg me, Li Zi. Tell him quickly, everything you said was a lie. Please, just help me one last time." She reached out as if trying to grasp some kind of salvation. I stared at that hand reaching out to me. In my past life, when I was pinned to the ground, this hand would only cover its mouth and snicker from the sidelines. When I was thrown down and beaten, it would only clutch tightly at Lu Jia's sleeve. Now, it was begging me for help. I shook my head slowly, then let out the satisfying word, "No." Target detected. Refusing host assistance 3 times. Activating electroshock punishment. Duration, 15 seconds. The moment the mechanical voice fell silent, Mu Qingqing froze in place. She convulsed as if struck by high-voltage electricity, her body jerking violently, her teeth clattering uncontrollably with a rattling sound. Eyes rolled back, drool trickling from the corner of his mouth, legs giving way. He toppled straight down to the ground. "Qingqing." Lu Jia instinctively moved to help, but Lin Lu stopped him. "Leave her alone. Who knows what trick she's up to now." The electric shock lasted a painfully long 15 seconds. Mu Qingqing slumped to the ground, lifeless as a puddle of mud. Her limbs were still twitching slightly, her school uniform soaked with cold sweat and clinging to her body. Her carefully styled ponytail had come undone, strands of hair plastered to her deathly pale face, a picture of utter wretchedness. A faint system prompt tone sounded. Punishment concluded. All plundered examination luck has been reset to 0. Mu Qingqing struggled to lift her eyelids, her unfocused gaze finally locking onto my face. That venomous glare looked like it wanted to devour me on the spot. Having seen enough of the show, Lin Lu picked up a branch from the ground and poked Mu Qingqing's shoulder with its tip. "Don't play possum. Get up." Mu Qingqing didn't respond. Seeing the girl he liked in such a state, Lu Jia couldn't stand by any longer. He stepped forward and knelt down. "Qingqing, can you hear me?" Mu Qingqing's fingers twitched, weakly grasping the hem of Lu Jia's trousers, her breath faint and shallow. My hand really hurts." Only then did Lu Jia realize that when she fell, her left hand had been pinned beneath her at an unnatural angle. He gently helped her up, but Mu Qingqing let out a scream the moment he touched her left wrist. Her arm was broken. Now she finally knew that searing, heart-wrenching pain. This is just the beginning. I have so much more in store for her. Lu Jia's face turned ashen. He looked up and shot Lin Lu a venomous glare, but said nothing. In the end, they still didn't dare to burn bridges. He scooped Mu Qingqing up into his arms and turned to walk towards the mouth of the alley. As she passed by me, Mu Qingqing's eyes fixed on me with a viper-like intensity, and then, I heard the voice of the system attached to her. The mission is on the brink of failure, activating the contingency plunder protocol for the host. The final solution. 7. I have no idea what the system and Mu Qingqing meant by the final solution. She took a week off and didn't come to class. The seats were empty. Dust lightly settled on the tabletop. I practice problems every day, work through competition papers, and organize my error notebook. My grades have been steadily improving, and I scored 670 on last week's mock exam. My homeroom teacher praised me 3 times during the class meeting, but I can't shake this lingering sense of unease. On the weekend, my mom called and invited me to come home for a meal. Xiaozi, you haven't been home in ages. Mom made your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. Come back for a meal. The voice was impossibly gentle, after a moment's hesitation. I agreed. It's not that I miss the house, I just want to see what she's up to this time. When I got home and pushed the door open, I froze for a few seconds. The table was set with 6 dishes and 1 soup, braised fish, sweet and sour pork ribs, well-braised shrimp, steamed sea bass, all substantial, high-end dishes. Those nice things never even made it to me. My uncle always got them all. My mom is what you'd call a sister-sacrificing type. She's always putting her brother first to pay off her uncle's gambling debts. She stole her father's startup funds, dad divorced her, and now she's fighting for my custody. It wasn't about how much she loved me, but about getting child support from my dad, supporting her idle younger brother. In my past life, she never came to her senses until I died. Even after I was killed by a car, the first thing she did with the compensation money was pay off my uncle's gambling debts. My father's hair turned white overnight from the grief of my death. He ran himself ragged trying to get justice for me, only to be struck and killed by a car on a rainy night. But my mother, she forgave the driver who caused the accident. She forgave everyone who had a hand in my demise. She said, they're already gone. What's the point in tearing another family apart? So even in death, I ended up making a contribution for her brother. Uncle came over today, all dressed up for once, and even brought a carton of milk. Xiaozi, you're back, Uncle greeted with a smile. Come on, have a seat. We were just waiting for you. My mom peeked up from the kitchen, her apron stained with grease, smiling so hard her eyes turned into slits. Go wash your hands and come eat. I made this especially for you today. I put down my backpack, washed my hands, and sat at the table. My mom kept piling food into my bowl, spare ribs, fish, shrimp, until it was stacked up like a little mountain. Eat more. You must be tired from studying. Look how thin you've gotten. I kept my head down, shoveling rice into my mouth without a word. Midway through the meal, my mom put down her chopsticks and started to set the stage. Xiaozi, dear, there's something I'd like to discuss with you. Here it comes. What is it? Well, the hospital called the other day. They said your kidney is a match for someone. My chopsticks hesitated for a moment. That person is willing to pay a high price, 500,000 for a single kidney donation. My mother wrung her hands, her voice trailing off. Xiaozi, you know your uncle's business hasn't been doing well lately. He's up to his neck in debt, and if he can't pay it back, those people are going to break his legs. So you want me to donate a kidney to pay off uncle's debt? Not for your uncle, for someone else. They're willing to pay for it. Mom, I put down my chopsticks. My kidney is not for sale. Sell it. This is about saving a life. Someone has uremia and needs a kidney transplant. Who has uremia? I stared into her eyes. She averted her gaze. Just a patient. Is it Mu Qingqing? My mom's expression changed instantly. Mu Qingqing doesn't have uremia at all, I said. She's faking it. No way. The hospital even issued a certificate. That's fake. I got up. Mom, Mu Qingqing tried to harm me before, and now she's tricking me into donating a kidney. Are you really going to help her hurt your own daughter? What harm could it possibly do? It's just donating a kidney. You're not going to die. My uncle slammed his hand on the table and stood up. How can you be so selfish? Selfish. I'm so angry I could laugh. Uncle, why should I pay off your gambling debt with my kidney? That's enough. My mom grabbed my uncle's arm and turned to look at me. Xiaozi, just do this one thing for your mom. Just this once. Last time you took my tuition money to lend to uncle, you said it was just this once. The time before that, you stole the living expenses my dad left for me, and you said it was just that once. And the time before that, smack, my mother slapped me Hard across the face. It's just a little money for your uncle, and you're keeping such a close account with me. I really raised you for nothing. Seeing my mom's flushed face and my uncle's smug grin, a wave of helplessness washed over me. I put down my chopsticks, grabbed my bag, and headed out, but from behind, a hand reached out and clamped tightly over my mouth and nose. I turned my head with difficulty and saw my mother's contorted face. In the end, she chose her uncle. 8. I was jolted awake by a splash of cold water, a harsh surgical light hung overhead, and the pungent smell of disinfectant filled the air. My hands and feet were strapped to the operating table, leaving me completely immobilized. Awake, Mu Qingqing's voice came from beside me. She stood by the operating table in a hospital gown, her face showing no trace of illness. She looked down at me, her eyes brimming with barely contained excitement. Li Zi, you've finally fallen into my hands. I glanced around the room. It was a crude operating room, filled with outdated equipment and cardboard boxes piled in the corners. 2 men in lab coats stood by the door, clearly not real doctors. This is illegal organ trafficking, I said. So what if it's illegal? Mu Qingqing chuckled. Once you accidentally die on the operating table, who's going to care? Contingency plan activated. Upon the demise of the designated benefactor, the host shall seize their entire reservoir of fortune. A system chime sounded. Hearing it, Mu Qingqing's smile widened. Hear that? Your death will pave the way for my future. I looked at her and smiled too. Mu Qingqing, do you really think I'd come unprepared? Her smile froze for a moment. Just then, the operating room door was kicked open. The homeroom teacher burst in, with police officers right behind her. Freeze. Get down on the ground. All of you. The 2 quack doctors immediately backed down. Mu Qingqing's face turned deathly pale as she stumbled back 2 steps, colliding with the operating table. You called the police. Mu Qingqing, do you really think I'm that stupid? To see my mom acting so strange and my uncle being so overly attentive, and not take any precautions. I already informed our homeroom teacher and shared my location with them. Mu Qingqing slumped to the floor. The system's icy voice rang out. Fallback plan failed. Initiating backlash protocol. Host will now genuinely develop the disease they were faking. No, don't. Mu Qingqing screamed. I'm not sick. I don't want to be sick. But it was too late. Her complexion visibly drained of color, her lips turned purple, and cold sweat beaded on her forehead. She clutched her side and curled up in agony. It hurts. My kidneys hurt so much. The police officer stepped forward to support her. Are you all right? Uremia. I really have uremia, she cried out. System, save me. No one could understand what she was saying. As they carried her away on the stretcher, her eyes were locked on me. Lying on the operating table, I stared at the harsh light overhead and let out a long, slow breath. It was over 9. Mu Qingqing has indeed been diagnosed with uremia, not faking it. It's genuine system backlash. The illnesses she fakes are the ones she ends up getting. She underwent dialysis 3 times at the hospital and became so emaciated she was almost unrecognizable. Her parents exhausted their savings and sold their house to pay for her treatment. Her mother knelt at the school gate, begging me to donate a kidney. Li Zi, please, I'm begging you. Qingqing is dying. Please, save her. I walked past her with my backpack, never breaking stride. Auntie, she tried to kill me before. Didn't it already fall through? She's really sick now. Can't you just... No, she caught up and grabbed my arm. If you don't donate, I'll report your mother and uncle. They're involved in illegal organ trafficking. They could go to jail for that. I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at her go ahead and sue. She froze. I looked at her, my voice brimming with excitement. Illegal organ trafficking, kidnapping, attempted murder. My mom and my uncle won't get away with any of it. Auntie, you'd better hurry. I can't wait for them to be locked up. Mother Mu's face went pale. She let go and tipped 2 steps back. I turned and walked away. After school, Lu Jiao was waiting for me at the school gate, dressed all in black with a grim expression. He was flanked by 2 tall, burly guys. Li Zi, we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. He blocked my path. Qingqing is dying. Would it kill you to donate a kidney? Yes. Hearing this, a sinister glint flashed in his eyes. If you don't donate your kidney to Qingqing, I'll break your hand and forget about your college entrance exam. I looked at him as if he were a stupid dog. I took out my phone and pointed the camera at him. Come on, say it again for the camera. Say you're going to cripple my hand so I can't take the college entrance exam. A look of terror flashed across Lu Jia's face. Are you live streaming this? Yeah. 3,000 people are watching. You want to repeat that? He took a step back, then turned and walked away. Those 2 lackeys took off as well. That night, Lu Jia's identity was exposed. 2nd-generation rich kid, school bully, threatens classmates, covers up attempted murder. Public opinion exploded. The Lu family's company stock plummeted, prompting partners to terminate their contracts one after another. Lu Jiao was beaten by his father so badly he couldn't get out of bed and had to recuperate at home for half a month. 10. The sun was shining brightly on the day of the college entrance exam. As I walked into the exam hall, I saw Mu Qingqing at the foot of the stairs. She was sitting in a wheelchair, being pushed by her mother. Her face was sallow, her lips were chapped, her hair was thinning, and she was so emaciated she was just skin and bones. The once radiant campus belle now resembled a frail old woman on her last legs as her wheelchair passed by me. Her pencil case fell to the ground, landing right at my feet. "I'm sorry." Mu Qingqing's voice was soft, like the rustle of dry leaves in the wind. She looked up at me, her eyes rimmed with red. "Lazy. I'm sorry. I was wrong before. I should have kept my feet on the ground and not always looked for shortcuts. Now I'm getting my comeuppance too, and I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" She looked at me, tears falling from her eyes, seeing me look back. She pleaded, "I can't reach it right now. Could you pick up my pencil case for me?" I did not bend down. Instead, he took 3 steps back, putting distance between them. He then walked around the wheelchair and entered the examination hall. Behind him came Mu Qingqing's hysterical shrieks, followed by the system's final, emotionless mechanical voice. "The sucker has once again refused to aid the host. The final opportunity to plunder fortune has been exhausted. System unbinding in progress." I knew she couldn't have changed that easily. She was still setting me up. Now, she'll have to face all the consequences by herself. The exam bell rang. I took my seat, looked at the exam paper in front of me, and took a deep breath. Question 1, trigonometry. I can do it. Question 2, solid geometry. I can do it. Question 3, sequences. I know them all. The nib whispered across the paper, flowing as smoothly as a pianist's fingers across the keys. By the 30-minute mark, a scream echoed from the back of the exam hall. "No, I won't. I can't do anything. It's Mu Qingqing. These are all questions I know how to solve. Why can't I figure them out? Why?" She started tearing up the exam paper, laughing and crying at the same time. System, come out. You promised I'd get into Tsinghua." The invigilator rushed over. "Hey, calm down. Don't touch me." Mu Qingqing pushed past her teacher and stood up. "You're all here to hurt me. All of you." She kicked over the table and charged toward the door. "I'm going to Tsinghua. I'm going to." The door opened. She dashed out. At the end of the corridor was the stairwell window. Sunlight streamed through the window, glaringly bright. "Hey, you, stop." Mu Qingqing ran to the window and climbed out. "I'm going to Tsinghua. I'm going." She jumped down with a smile. Screams and crashing sounds came from downstairs. The exam hall was in chaos, with some people crying and others on their phones. I lowered my head and went back to my test. My pen never stopped moving. Question 31, analytic geometry. Let the equation of the ellipse bx superscript 2 / a superscript 2 plus y superscript 2 / b superscript 2 equals 1. My hand was steady. The exam was over. I handed in my paper and walked out of the examination hall. My dad was waiting for me at the school gate. He was wearing that faded jacket, holding up a bouquet of sunflowers, and waving at me enthusiastically. "Zizi, Daddy's here." I ran over and threw myself into his arms. The warm scent on him was exactly as I remembered. "How did the exam go?" he asked. "It went really well." That's great, he said, patting me on the back. "Come on, I'll take you out for a nice meal." "Okay." I carried the sunflower and followed behind him. The sun shone down on us, casting our shadows, one long, one short, side by side. I glanced back at the examination hall. An ambulance was parked downstairs with its emergency lights flashing. Mu Qingqing was carried into the vehicle, her fate unknown, but none of that mattered anymore. I turned and followed in my father's footsteps. In this life, I did not go mad. I did not die. And nothing was stolen from me. I simply took back what was always mine. The end. Story 2. My 220-pound sister got so obsessed with romance novels that she started demanding to become slim and gorgeous so she could marry a billionaire. She saw a pop-up ad claiming tapeworms could help with weight loss and decided to spend 20,000 yuan on overseas purchases. My parents drained our family savings, including the college tuition I'd saved up from working part-time. I tried to warn her that tapeworms are parasites. They won't help you lose weight. They'll just eat away at your organs. My sister accused me of being jealous that she was making the family rich and living the good life, so she convinced our parents to sell me off to some creepy old man. I refused, so they broke my legs and locked me in the pigsty. Later, when a tapeworm had eaten away half my sister's liver and she was on death's door, our parents dragged me out of the pigsty to give her my liver. My sister recovered and was discharged from the hospital, but father, furious that I'd made my sister suffer, forced the remaining tapeworms down my throat. In the end, my body swelled with parasites, my organs were devoured, and I died miserably in a filthy ditch. Given a second chance at life, I found myself back on the day my sister bought those tapeworms. This time, I dragged her and our parents along for a grand tapeworm sashimi feast. Jing, get this done for me later, and remember, I want it raw. A chubby leg kicked me and something foul-smelling was shoved into my hand. I shook my head hard, pulling myself out of the despair of waiting to die in a filthy ditch. My sister waddled her bulky frame over, eagerly shoving the phone at our parents. "Mom, Dad, this is what I bought overseas. Take it and you'll instantly become slim and beautiful." The flashy pop-up ads cast shifting red and green lights across her plump face, their sun-weathered faces flushed with excitement. "Our Phoebe is really going places. 20,000 to marry into wealth. Now that's a smart investment." Mom snatched the cardboard box from my hands, exclaiming, "Even in my old age, I deserve to see something special." Inside the plastic bag were 3 pieces of raw beef, still oozing blood. Clusters of raised white eggs dotted the surface, some wriggling, clearly alive. Mom hesitated. "Phoebe, these are parasites. Is it safe to eat them raw?" My sister scoffed. "Mom, you're so old-fashioned. You have to eat it raw for it to work. The novels say that rich families always eat seafood sashimi. That's raw fish." Dad beamed with pride. "Phoebe really knows her stuff, you bet." My sister clasped her hands dramatically. "Once I marry into wealth, we won't have to do any backbreaking labor. We'll just lounge in bed and have food delivered." My parents were grinning from ear to ear, but their tone was stern as they snapped at me. "What are you standing there for? Go do it now." My sister said with sarcasm, "You little country bumpkin, don't tell me you're still sulking over me taking your college tuition." Suppressing the overwhelming resentment in my chest, I replied meekly, "Of course not. I was just being naive before. Struggling through years of study is nothing compared to you marrying into wealth and giving me a hand." My sister grew even more smug. "Rich young masters all go for the sweet, simple types. You're not cut out for it with your education. I might not even be able to help you." I immediately dropped to my knees and clung to her plump legs, flashing an ingratiating smile. "I'm counting on you, sis." Then I stepped aside, pretending to focus on handling the raw beef while concealing the coldness in my eyes. In my past life, after my tuition money was stolen, I desperately tried to convince my sister that tapeworms are parasites. Not only do they fail at weight loss, but tapeworms can also migrate through the body and gnaw on organs. Those pop-ups are just virus-laden spam ads. There's no way this stuff was actually shipped from abroad. My sister didn't believe me. Instead, she slapped me so hard I nearly went deaf. "You think you're so smart after a few years of school. Even foreigners have tried this and it works." She pulled up a video showing a foreigner who became slim and healthy just days after swallowing parasite eggs raw, but I could tell at a glance that was no human being. When my parents found out, I almost blocked the family's source of income. They were so furious they hit me with a rolling pin. I covered my bleeding ear and rolled around trying to dodge, but I couldn't escape the blows. My sister then poured fuel on the fire, saying, "Spending money on her education is a waste. Better to marry her off early and get some bride price back." That made my parents so angry they tore up my 211 university admission letter and sold me off to Soren from the neighboring village. I screamed and refused, but the 3 of them broke my legs together and threw me into the pigsty to sober up. My sister lost 80 pounds in just 2 weeks thanks to the tapeworm and became much prettier. While the whole family was celebrating noisily, I lay in the pigsty, barely clinging to life. Later, the tapeworm ate away half of my sister's liver, and she was rushed straight to the ICU. My parents were frantic with worry. When they heard a liver transplant could save my sister's life, they dragged me out of the pigsty without a second thought. Using the money from selling me to Soren, they transplanted half of my liver to my sister. My sister recovered and left the hospital, but her body inevitably suffered some damage. The doctor said it might affect her fertility. My father blamed it all on me and forced the remaining tapeworm eggs down my throat. After my illness struck, I was casually discarded by the roadside. My sister stomped on my belly, swollen with tapeworms, and sneered, "So what if you got into a top university? You're still beneath my feet." I tried to call for help but collapsed into a filthy ditch, never to rise again. The day I died happened to be the registration date stated on my admission letter. Given a second chance at life, I'm going to treat the whole family to a deadly tapeworm sashimi feast and rewrite my destiny before the news breaks. "Hurry up already. Your sister asked you to do one simple thing and you're dragging your feet." Dad smacked the back of my head without warning. The blow nearly sent me stumbling, but I gritted my teeth and steadied myself. "Dad, I was just giving it a massage." "Sashimi needs to be massaged first to bring out the flavor." Dad squinted skeptically. "Meat needs massaging. Stop pretending you know what you're talking about." As he spoke, he made a move to hit me again. My sister slumped on the couch and shrieked, "It's true, Dad. City folks call it massage." Dad immediately chuckled. "If our Phoebe says so, then it must be true." Then he ordered me, "Be gentle. If you break this 20,000 yuan treasure, I'll make you wish you were dead." I obediently acknowledged and put on gloves to carefully sift through them. Doing a rough count, each piece of raw beef had about 20 to 30 live insect eggs. I sliced the beef, carefully avoiding the squirming white larvae. I thought to myself, "You better stay alive and take good care of my family." I served a whole piece of beef, simply garnished with some chopped scallions and arranged neatly on the plate. When I brought it to the table, Mom took one look at the bloody, raw beef and yelled, You lazy girl, you didn't even wash off the blood. How are we supposed to eat this? I put on an injured expression and said, I just wanted you to have the freshest bite, sis. My sister struck a connoisseur's pose. Jing's right for once. This is authentic flavor at its source. Since when did she become an authority on authenticity? With that, she picked up a slice of raw beef and brought it to her lips. I quickly said, sis, whatever you do, don't bite into the insect eggs. You have to swallow them whole, she scoffed. Tell me something I don't know. Pouting, she began sucking the insect eggs off the raw beef. One by one, the eggs were coated in a slimy, slippery mucus, and they pulsed faintly as they slid into her mouth. I stared fixedly at her mouth, making sure every last insect egg slid whole down her throat. Digging my nails into my thigh was the only thing stopping the smirk from spreading across my face. My sister was relishing the raw beef, a ring of blood smeared around her lips. The slime from the insect eggs, now mixed with blood, dripped thickly, making her look like a demon straight from hell. My parents beamed with joy. A good appetite is a blessing, and our Phoebe is truly blessed. Noticing me secretly swallowing my saliva, they sneered, get lost. A worthless brat like you doesn't even deserve to look at something worth 20 grand. Letting you touch it would be a privilege. I smirked inwardly but feigned earnestness. Of course I'm not worthy, but after a lifetime of hard work, don't you two deserve to enjoy some fine delicacies? My parents were taken aback. Mom stole a few glances at the beef, nervously twisting the edge of her shirt. Something this expensive. Are we really allowed to eat it? Why wouldn't you be? I said, my voice rising with emotion. You've been living in this rundown shack, bitten by mosquitoes in summer, getting frostbite in winter, never having enough to eat or warm clothes to wear. Think of all the hardship you've endured. Besides, you gave birth to a star like my sister. Don't you deserve at least a piece of meat? Mom and Dad wiped their tears with their sleeves, and even my sister was moved. Finally, you're making sense for once in your life. Come on, Mom and Dad, let's eat together. Wait, I yelled, stopping them in their tracks. What now, you brat? All three of them glared at me in annoyance. I said, how can we enjoy such delicacies without some wine to go with them? The three of them were momentarily stunned. I shot my sister a knowing look. Sis knows how it is with the rich. Steak always calls for red wine. Exactly, my sister laughed. And don't forget the knife and fork. Mom, Dad, let's get a head start on practicing the high society life so we're not caught off guard later. But we don't have any red wine at home, Dad said with a pained expression. We don't have any knives or forks either, Mom added. I dug up the bottle of wine Dad had buried in the corner of the house. Dad swung his hand to slap me. You little brat, this was a gift from the village chief. It's the only bottle we have. My sister's eyes lit up. Dad, I want some. Dad looked pained, but his expression quickly brightened. All right, go ahead. A cold smile played on my lips. I knew bringing up the wealthy family would make my sister agree. Wine, being alkaline, accelerates parasite growth. What better pairing for tapeworm sashimi could there be? I poured wine for the three of them, then brought 3 small knives and toothpicks to serve as cutlery. I then draped a cloth over my arm, stood to the side, and gave a slight bow. Master, madam, and young mistress, your meal is served. Mom and Dad beamed with laughter, their faces crinkling at the corners. My sister let out her practiced, tinkling laugh. All those years of schooling, and you'd make the perfect maid for me. The three of them sat contentedly in the drafty, ramshackle hut, putting on airs as they ate the raw beef, as if their wishes had already come true, and they were dining in an upscale Western restaurant. I stood beside them, bending over with a smile. I watched them swallow every last insect egg, struggling to hold back my laughter. My dear parents and sister, I hope you enjoy this feast. That night, I stayed awake, coldly watching my parents and sister as they slept. The crepe myrtle on the mountain bloomed just as my sister was born. Villagers said she was the star of wealth descending to earth, destined for great fortune. My parents had been worried about not having a son, but their faces lit up with joy upon hearing this. They changed her name from Pundi, hope for a brother, to Phoebe. From then on, they stopped working entirely, living on welfare while waiting for their sister to make the family rich. The village chief tried to talk them out of it several times, but they wouldn't listen. We've got our own lucky star now. Why bother working? Let's just wait for the fortune to roll in. Not long after, my mother went into premature labor by the well. When she saw I was another girl, she nearly threw me straight into the well. The village chief's wife had to physically intervene and carry me back home. Dad didn't even glance at me. Since you came from the well, we'll call you Opal. All the good things at home went to my sister, and she kept getting heavier. I felt like a stray child. Even my education depended on handing over my scholarships to my parents. After the college entrance exam, I took on multiple jobs and worked so hard I passed out twice, just to save up a little over $3,000 for tuition, but it was all snatched away from me. What I resent most is that they tore up my admission letter, and with it, my future. Perhaps even heaven couldn't stand by and watch, so it gave me a second chance. Before dawn, Dad kicked me awake. Get up and start the fire for breakfast. When I entered the kitchen, I overheard 3 people whispering. I quietly pressed my ear against the door to listen. Dad, where's that wretched girl's admission letter. Here it is. Good thinking, Phoebe, grabbing these packages when you picked up your delivery. If she saw this, we'd be done for. My fists clenched as rage washed over me, making the room spin. I took a deep breath, steadying myself to keep listening. Mom, Dad, if that useless girl goes off to college, there'll be no one left to do the housework, Dad snapped. College, she should be so lucky. My sister said smugly, here's what I think, we should sell Jingyo to Soren from the next village over. Mom hesitated, but Soren's disabled, and he was caught sneaking into the women's bathhouse before. He's loaded, my sister declared with conviction. After getting that injury payout from the construction site, he's looking for a young girl. I've got it all figured out. We should demand at least 200,000 from him. Let Jingyo's wretched luck be his problem. Plus, she lives close by, so it'll be convenient for her to come back and work for us. Dad clapped his hands. Phoebe, you're brilliant. Mom's face flushed with excitement at the mention of money. Deal, she exclaimed, remembering the horrors of my past life. I quietly retrieved the remaining raw beef. Since they care so much about me, I'll naturally return the favor with another tapeworm feast, recalling the despair when father forced the remaining parasite eggs into my mouth in our previous life. I spent 3 days playing the obedient servant this time, coaxing them into finishing all 3 pieces of raw beef. Just like in her past life, my sister lost 80 gene in just 2 weeks. Tapeworm eggs absorb large amounts of fat and nutrients as they develop, which causes rapid weight loss in the early stages, but once the adult worms hatch, they start migrating through the body and feeding on tissues. My sister's facial features were always nice, and with the weight loss, she gained a certain delicate charm. My parents were completely convinced of the tapeworms' effectiveness, certain that her marriage into a wealthy family was just around the corner. The 3 of them would often lie on their smelly bed, daydreaming about a life of luxury, and for the time being, they didn't bring up marrying me off to Soren, but no matter what, they wouldn't let me leave the house. I took advantage of their good mood and sweet-talked them into finishing that bottle of wine. May they move one step closer to the life of their dreams, I urged them further. The village chief has always looked down on our family, constantly pushing you both to work harder. Now that my sister is about to marry into wealth, it's time to wipe that smug look off his face. My sister, who had been craving admiration for her beauty, exclaimed, Dad, I want to throw a banquet. Of course, let's invite the entire village. All the family's money went into buying beef tapeworm medicine, leaving nothing for a proper feast. I used up every bit of flour we had to barely make 2 dozen steamed buns, and even had to borrow tables and chairs from the neighbors. My sister wore a red dress, with face powder so thick it was practically flaking off. For once, my parents let me wear one of my sister's slightly newer hand-me-downs, and even had her dab some powder on my face and put lipstick on me. Just as I was wondering, I spotted Soren arriving too. His gaze slithered over my face like some creepy insect. I stared at his shriveled face, the thick drool clinging to his lips, and the foamy spittle at the corners of his mouth. My stomach churned with nausea, goosebumps rising all over my body. My parents stood at the door with my sister and declared loudly, our Phoebe is about to marry into a wealthy family. You'd better start showing some respect while you can. Soon, even a single strand of her hair will be worth more than your entire livelihood. The village chief frowned deeply. You've lost so much weight in just a few days. How did you manage that? My sister pursed her red lips and sneered, as if I'd tell you that. You all better show me some respect. In the future, even the crumbs that fall from my fingers will be enough to feed you for a year. And Auntie burst out laughing. You've spent your entire life savings on this banquet, and all you're serving is steamed buns. The crowd erupted in mocking laughter. People only said Phoebe was the reincarnation of the purple star to stop you two from ruining that poor girl's life, and you actually believed it. You're neglecting a wonderful child like Jing Nyo to dote on someone so lazy and foolish. Do you think rich families are stupid? Mom was furious. You don't know a damn thing. Just a bunch of jealous paupers. Don't come begging at my door like stray dogs anymore. Give back our steamed buns and get lost. Everyone threw down the steamed buns and walked away without looking back. Soren wiped his mouth, gave me a lecherous look, and nodded at Dad before leaving. I turned my face away and took several deep breaths to calm my racing heart. I told my parents, we finished that last bottle of liquor. I'll figure out a way to get another one from the village chief. Dad said, Jingyo's right this time. These people came to eat at our house and still insulted us. We can't just waste these steamed buns on them. I nodded and rushed out, grabbing the village chief just as he was stepping out the door. Help me, chief. Ever since his wife saved me by the well, the village chief had taken a special interest in me. After my middle school exams, he was the one who helped me apply for a scholarship so I could attend high school. The moment I laid out the plan, he agreed without hesitation. When I got home empty-handed, my parents asked, where's the liquor? I announced to the whole family. Something more important came up. The village chief asked me to do a live stream. My mother's face instantly darkened. It's improper for a woman to put herself in the public eye like that. I immediately grabbed my sister's hand and said, I've got to be my sister's wingwoman. Our village is so remote. The wealthy families don't even know how gorgeous my sister is. How's she supposed to marry into one of them? My sister's eyes lit up. Then you should go tomorrow. You little rascal. You'd better make this good. Dad's eyes shifted, his gaze suddenly turning sinister. You little brat. I've got your admission letter right here. Try any funny business and I'll tear it up and feed it to the pigs. A chill ran down the back of my neck. I remembered from my past life. That was the same look he had when he broke my leg with a club and dragged me away for a liver transplant. Got it, Dad, I replied with downcast eyes in a submissive tone. The next day, I set off for the village chief's house. The live stream was real, but helping my sister was just a pretense. Our village grows excellent Dutching tangerines, but we're too remote to sell them easily. Yesterday, I told the village chief to go ahead and buy the equipment so we can start live streaming sales. My sister's phone isn't a smartphone, it's only good for calls and reading novels, not live streams. As for my parents, they're both illiterate, so there's nothing to worry about there. I'm absolutely certain my parents won't come to watch my live stream in person. It's nothing personal, they just can't be bothered to make the long trip on my live stream. I effortlessly recite poetry while wearing tattered clothes. Viewers flood the chat with questions like, aren't you too young to be streaming, and why are you wearing long sleeves in this heat? I didn't respond, but my eyes grew slightly moist. Then I continued the live stream with a faint choke in my voice. As I held the tangerine closer to the camera, the injury on my arm accidentally became visible. I hurriedly pulled down my sleeve to cover it. After a few days of streaming, I gained tens of thousands of followers and helped the village sell thousands of orders. My sister suddenly gained over 10 pounds back these past few days, and her previously flat stomach has reappeared. She's so anxious she can't even eat. She's been pushing me to go live and help her find a husband. One day, while I was live streaming, the village chief's phone rang. Seeing it was my sister's number, he handed it to me. My heart skipped a beat. I put it on speaker and stammered, Dad. My father's furious voice boomed through the stream. Damn it, you useless girl. Your sister's throwing up and you're still out there selling yourself. Get your ass back here now. I stammered like a frightened animal. I understand. I'm coming right back. Before I could say another word, Dad had already hung up. I stood frozen for a few seconds with tears in my eyes, then suddenly snapped out of it. I said with a smile, hey everyone, something's come up at home, so I'm ending the stream here. Sorry. Yet a single tear unmistakably traced a path down from the corner of my eye. Before shutting down the live stream, I saw the screen flooded with comments like, the streamer is definitely being controlled. What kind of crappy dad is that? As the camera turned off, I wiped away my tears with an expressionless face and silently curved my lips into a faint smile. The moment I stepped inside, the stench hit me so hard I nearly threw up. She was bedridden, so Mom brought a large basin to catch her vomit. It must have been truly revolting. Even Mom was retching. In just a few days, my sister's round face had turned several shades yellower. My hair, clothes, and the bed were all covered in splatters of vomit. Some of it was still moving. I quickly pretended to wipe my eyes, forcing back the laughter in them. It's finally starting. Get over here and check on your sister, you brat. What's wrong with her? Mom sobbed while stroking my semi-conscious sister's forehead. Oh my Phoebe, what's happened to you? I shrank back timidly. But Mom, I never studied medicine. I wouldn't know what to do. Dad hurled a lid across the room. Then what was the point of spending all that money on your education? I deftly sidestepped without batting an eye. No, let's have Dr. Felix take a look. My sister struggled to sit up upon hearing this. No, outsiders mustn't learn my secret. This is, she vomited again with a retching sound, just expelling toxins. I'll be fine in a few days. Mother wiped her tears. But you're vomiting so violently and can't keep food down. What should we do? Dad said with concern. Phoebe, it breaks my heart to see you throwing up like this. My sister waved her hand dismissively. Throwing up is how you lose weight. You just don't get it. I chimed in timidly. Mom, Dad, I heard drinking tea can help with nausea. Maybe we should try giving some to Sis. Why didn't you say so sooner? Mom hurriedly dug out the tea leaves that had been sitting for years, boiled some water, and made a strong cup of tea to force down my sister's throat. First the wine, now the strong tea, coupled with my sister's sallow complexion. I figured the tapeworm inside my sister had almost fully developed. The adult worm's head grows hooks that latch onto internal organs and wreak havoc. I heard the largest adult can grow up to 8 meters long. Gotta say, I'm genuinely excited. After drinking the strong tea, my sister stopped vomiting, though it might just be because there was nothing left in her stomach. Seeing her condition improve, our parents breathed a sigh of relief the moment my sister recovered. She immediately asked how the live stream went and if any wealthy families had shown interest. I told her it had only been a few days and things don't move that fast. She got anxious and insisted on joining me for the next live stream. Thinking on my feet, I said, wealthy mothers-in-law never like their daughters-in-law being in the public eye. What if someone from a rich family has already taken notice? You showing up now could ruin everything. She nodded thoughtfully, then she eyed me suspiciously. You're not hiding something from me, are you? My heart skipped a beat, but I put on a look of Earnest deference. How could I? You know high society so well. Sister, you'd see right through anything I said. There's no hiding anything from you. Before she could speak, I added, right now I just want you to find a billionaire brother-in-law. Even the loose change he'd toss my way could set me up for life. My sister finally relaxed. 3 more days. If there's still no news by then, her pupils rolled in their yellowish whites. A strange smile playing on her lips. You'll be the one walking down the aisle first. My heart sank like a stone. I grabbed her sleeve and pleaded, I'll work harder, I promise. Walking back to the village chief's house, I recalled the greed in Soren's eyes when he looked at me, and my heart plummeted to the depths. If I were forced to marry Soren, all my plans would be for nothing. Everything from the past life will repeat itself. Before I could get there, the village chief rushed out. Sweetheart, a big client wants to come to the village to check out the goods. We've got a huge order. My eyes lit up. Sis, the wealthy family you've been dreaming of is finally here. News about the big client coming to our village spread like wildfire throughout the afternoon. When I got home that evening, Mom and Dad were helping my sister try on new clothes. Mom had made them just a few days earlier, specifically for my sister's meeting with her future in-laws. It was pink and studded with rhinestones. Unfortunately, she had it made right after her sister lost 80 pounds, and it no longer fit, but her sister still squeezed herself into it by any means necessary. She sat elegantly at the table, legs crossed, powdering her face, but the moment she spoke, the fat on her belly jiggled uncontrollably. Afraid of gaining more weight, she hasn't dared to eat anything these past few days, but I know it's completely pointless, because this isn't actually weight gain at all. It's edema caused by liver damage. Finally making yourself useful, you useless brat, she chirped, admiring her new dress with delight. I bowed obsequiously, all thanks to your good fortune, sis. But then she added, Mom, Dad, now that the wealthy family is here, let Soren come pick her up tonight. Rage erupted inside me like an explosion. So it turns out, whether the wealthy family shows up or not, I'm destined to marry Soren. They had it all planned out from the very beginning. I tried my best to steady my trembling body and said with a forced smile, Sis, if the wealthy family comes, it wouldn't look good for you to handle it yourself, and Mom and Dad are elders. The dirty work always falls on me, doesn't it? Dad sneered. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You just don't want to get married. Don't forget, I still have your admission letter. I lowered my eyes submissively. Then you have me completely at your mercy. You can marry me off after I've fulfilled my filial duties. My sister basked in the flattery. Oh my, even college students know how to butter people up. Then you'd better behave properly in front of my husband and mother-in-law tomorrow, or I'll beat you to death. I acknowledged and went to work, a flicker of mockery in my eyes. The show is about to begin. The day we'd been waiting for finally arrived. Our client was coming. My sister and parents were already at the village entrance, eager to meet my husband and their son-in-law, afraid the village chief might stop them. They hid behind a tree and waited for a full 3 hours. The sun beat down harder, plastering my sister's tight dress to her skin with sweat. The rolls of fat became even more pronounced. That stupid country girl didn't even say what time. My feet have gone completely numb. My sister grumbled under her breath. Mom was about to chime in when a sleek black car pulled into the village. My sister got excited. They're here. They're here. Mom, Dad, I'm marrying into a wealthy family. The village chief and I went to greet them, and a man in his 30s stepped out of the car, with his hair slicked back and dressed in a sharp suit. He really had that domineering CEO vibe. A woman stepped out of the passenger seat, her plump figure evident from behind. My sister could no longer contain her excitement and rushed over, holding up her skirt. Our parents quickly followed suit. Having crouched for too long, all 3 of them simultaneously slid into a kneel, collapsing before the man. Husband, the sister cried out. The parents, tears streaming down their aged faces as if reuniting with a long-lost relative, exclaimed, Son-in-law. The sister's face, caked with foundation thicker than wall plaster, had already been mostly washed away by sweat. A sickly yellow face emerged, made even more jarring by the garishly crimson lips, yet the eyes held a dewy, sentimental gaze. The client recoiled in terror, instinctively kicking out and shouting, What the hell is that? The woman took the kick square in the stomach, suddenly doubling over and writhing on the ground. Honey, I'm your sweet little Phoebe. Wah, I went through all this effort to get slim and pretty for you, and you kick me. If you damage my belly, how am I supposed to give you brilliant, adorable babies? Dad got angry too. Son-in-law, you're completely in the wrong here. You came to take Phoebe back for a comfortable life, didn't you? With this kind of attitude, we'll have to reconsider. Mom shrieked. 1 million, no, 5 million. We want 5 million in bride price. Long hair, short sight, Dad yelled, at least 100 million. I quietly stepped back, noticing the client's crew was live streaming, and my heart leaped with joy. A portly woman rushed over and scolded angrily, Who are you people? Stop spouting such nonsense. The sister looked at her and quickly caught on. Mother-in-law. The woman was taken aback. The sister burst into tears. Mother-in-law, I'll study etiquette diligently and take good care of you. From now on, I'll join you for afternoon tea and help you pick out dresses. Mom quickly stood up and took the woman's hand. Dear in-laws, Phoebe is in your care from now on. She's the reincarnation of the purple star, bringing prosperity to both wealth and marriage. Dad continued with his authoritative tone. Since you're here too, let's settle it now. The bride price will be 100 million. All right, after all, your family has a fortune of 10 billion. This is just a drop in the bucket. He glanced at the stunned villagers who had come to greet the client. Look, this is my son-in-law. My daughter's marrying into a wealthy family. From now on, you'll address us as master and mistress. Seeing the client's face turning ashen, the village chief quickly gathered 3 or 4 villagers to pull my sister and parents aside. The portly woman finally snapped out of her daze and delivered 3 sharp slaps, 1 to my sister and 2 to my parents. This is my husband. I'm only 32. Who the hell are you calling granny? A billionaire family offering 100 million in betrothal gifts. Have you rotted your brain reading those trashy novels? My parents' faces instantly paled at this sudden turn of events. You're not. The portly woman pulled over the man whose face had turned ashen. We're just here to buy oranges from your village. She thumped her chest emphatically. I'm the boss here. Get that straight. My parents were completely dumbfounded. Dad was the quickest to react. He immediately glared at me and charged over, ready to strike. Damn you, you little brat. How dare you lie to your old man? I never should have trusted a wretched, ill-fated brat like you. You've got no luck with money, and now you're standing in the way of our family making it big. I'll beat you to death, chop you up, and feed you to the pigs. His face twisted into a demonic snarl, stirring memories of the torment he inflicted on me in a past life. Instinctively, I shrank back into the crowd. You little brat, how dare you hide from me? Mother was wailing and rolling on the ground. My life is so wretched. I gave birth to this worthless burden. The portly woman was so furious that she backhanded them both again. I knew it. This girl clearly has a way with words, yet she seemed too afraid to speak her mind. Turns out it's because of scum like you messing with her. Let me make this clear, she said, pointing at the live stream crew. I'm broadcasting this whole thing live today specifically to save the streamer. The live stream just hit over 100,000 viewers. They all saw your true colors just now. The parents abruptly turned to look at the live stream phone. I can't believe that behind this little gadget, there are hundreds of thousands of eyes watching them, Dad said furiously. You can control everything under the sun, but you can't stop me from disciplining my own daughter, even if I beat her to death. It's my goddamn right. Wah. The moment my sister got kicked in the stomach, she started howling ouch, and writhing on the ground. Everyone thought she was faking it and couldn't be bothered with her, but then they heard that sound, and all turned to look at her at the same time. Her face had turned a ghastly shade of yellow, and she'd vomited a huge puddle of bloody mucus. Phoebe, her parents screamed in anguish, scrambling forward on their hands and knees. Her sister kept vomiting mucus, her body convulsing. Oh my God, look at her stomach. My sister was wearing a tight outfit, and her belly was clearly visible. Her stomach was already a massive flab, but now it was contorted into a bizarre shape by some force. When I looked at my sister again, her eyes had rolled back into her head. The village chief panicked. Quick, call Dr. Felix. Mother shook her head in horror. No, we can't let outsiders find out, otherwise, our Phoebe will never marry into a wealthy family. The village chief roared in anger. Is the child's life more important, or your ridiculous obsession with marrying into wealth? Dr. Felix rushed over immediately. After examining the sister on the spot, he was shocked. Such a severe parasitic infection. What has she been eating? My parents exchanged glances, still hemming and hawing, unwilling to speak. Dr. Felix's face darkened. If you won't talk, then go to the morgue to claim the body tomorrow. Mom burst into tears. I told you so. I said you shouldn't eat that tapeworm. My poor Phoebe. Tapeworm. Dr. Felix was utterly shocked. How could you dare to eat such a dangerous parasite? Dad raised his voice. Phoebe bought this from a mobile ad. It was shipped from overseas. What's wrong with eating it? Oh, so you're educated and that makes you special. Stop pretending to know everything. Dr. Felix was baffled. Customs requires ID registration. Your family couldn't even be bothered to get an ID. How could you possibly receive overseas packages? For all we know, it came from some shady workshop just a few kilometers away. Mom was so shocked she forgot to cry, shaking her head frantically. No, it can't be. Phoebe couldn't have done anything wrong. Dad shot to his feet, pointing at me. It's all her fault. She fed her sister those tapeworm pills, claiming they'd make her slim and beautiful enough to marry into wealth. Now she's cost Phoebe her life. Ryder, the village chief stepped in front of me, raising his voice. That's enough. You tried to throw Jingnyo down the well right after she was born. If it weren't for my wife, she'd have died. Without anyone knowing the truth, she's been wearing Phoebe's hand-me-downs and eating her leftovers since childhood, and you even took money for her education. You're just a broke, lazy slob trying to drag her name through the mud. The village chief pointed at the plump woman. The wealthy family you'd kill to marry into came here specifically to discuss business with Jingnyo. 3 million, and she earned every penny with her real talent. Her father refused to believe it. His eyes Bloodshot. Impossible. How could that wretched girl possibly make so much money? They should have drowned you in a well the day you were born. I finally broke down sobbing. I'm your daughter too, just like my sister. I've been cooking, cleaning, doing chores since I was little. All I wanted was for you and Mom not to sell me off to Soren, for my sister to stop calling me worthless girl. Why is that too much to ask? What? The crowd erupted in shock and fury. You call yourselves parents? You don't even deserve to be called human. The person live streaming on their phone kept the camera steady, capturing every moment. The portly woman spat viciously at her parents and sister. Pa, trash like you marrying into wealth. Just wait for the police to come knocking. Upon hearing she might face jail time, Mother's eyes rolled back as she nearly fainted. Ugh, in the meantime, dear. Felix administered an emergency deworming medication to the sister. The sister's mouth was agape, her throat emitting guttural rasps. Something seemed to be wriggling out of her mouth. Everyone present stared at this horrifying scene, holding their breath. Moments later, a ribbon-like white worm slowly emerged from her crimson mouth. Then, segment by segment, it crawled from my sister's mouth onto the ground, stained with blood and mucus. It left a glistening trail on the floor. After fully emerging, it even raised its head slightly. Mom was frozen in shock. Dad's eyes widened as he stammered. What is this, Dr. Felix said coldly, something she ingested herself. It took a full 20 minutes for the entire tapeworm to crawl out. My parents collapsed to the ground in horror at the sight of the squirming worm, which appeared to be a full 5 meters long. Just as my sister seemed to settle down and we began to relax, she started vomiting again. By the time she vomited up the 5th worm, the ambulance Dr. Felix had called finally arrived. Get her to the hospital now, Dr. Felix shook his head. Judging by her complexion, her liver is probably failing. Dad watched in despair as my unconscious sister was carried into the ambulance. Then he suddenly turned violent, grabbing me by the collar when the village chief wasn't looking. You're coming too. When others tried to intervene, he whipped out a knife and snarled, if anything happens to Phoebe, I've got nothing left to live for anyway. Anyone who dares save this wretched girl will get a knife in the gut. I was shoved hard into the ambulance, my head smacking against the wall, but I didn't make a sound. I knew better than to confront a madman head-on. In the vehicle, Dad suddenly let out an eerie chuckle. Opal, a chill slowly crept through my body. In my past life, Dad only used my full name once. It was when he needed me to donate part of my liver to my sister. His sinister smile looked particularly eerie under the surgical lights. Opal, you've finally made yourself useful to the family. I knew this was the sign of him being pushed to his absolute limit. You're a dead woman, he gently stroked my sister's hand. If anything happens to Phoebe, you'll follow her to the grave and serve her there. I clenched my jaw. A faint metallic taste of blood spread through my mouth. My sister was rushed straight into the emergency room, but within minutes, the doctor emerged shaking his head. The parasites have almost completely devoured her liver. She needs an immediate transplant, but finding a suitable liver donor in such a short time, I'm afraid it's highly unlikely. Dad yanked me forward. Take hers, she's Phoebe's biological sister. As if I were livestock being led to slaughter, the doctor shook his head again. The patient's liver is almost completely gone. A partial transplant won't be sufficient. Transfer everything. Dad cut off the doctor. Our whole family is counting on her. From the moment I was born, I knew I was the unwanted one in this family, yet across 2 lifetimes. My own father never hesitated to sacrifice me to save my sister. Still, I can't help but feel this chilling despair. The doctor was also shocked. Then what about your second daughter? How is she supposed to live without a liver? Dad yelled in desperation. I don't care how she lives. Doctor, you must save my daughter. She's the reincarnation of the purple star. The doctor's face turned as dark as a burnt pot. I'm sorry, but this hospital saves lives. We don't take them. I turned and went back into the operating room. Dad grabbed me and slammed my head against the operating room door. Get in there, you wretched girl. Go tell the doctor. Give your liver to Phoebe. Go on. You want your sister to die. Is that it? Mom was sobbing in the corner, covering her ears as if to block it all out. I fought back with all my might, but his brute force was overwhelming. He slammed my head against the wall until blood streamed down my face. A nurse screamed for security, who rushed in and pulled my father off me. My face was covered in blood, yet my voice cut through the chaos in the hallway. Clear and unwavering, I will not be her liver donor. Mom screamed through her tears. She's your own sister. Why won't you take her place, you heartless monster? Sob, my poor Phoebe. Why? I murmured the word back, smiling through the blood covering my face. Because I'm a human being too. The operating room doors swung open at that moment. The commotion ceased instantly. My parents stared fixedly at the doctor, not blinking an eye. The doctor said gravely, we did everything we could. My luxury cars, my villa, my red wine and steak. Dad muttered under his breath, my fortune, my Phoebe, it's over, all gone. Mom was sobbing silently, then convulsed, spat out blood, and passed out. The nurse rushed to take her for treatment. Oh my God, there are worms in the blood. They're so long, and still alive. Quick, quick, get the doctor. Dad watched as Mom was carried away, his pupils trembling with terror. Me. Could I be next? He stared at his own abdomen, then suddenly steeled himself. A few drops of warm blood splattered onto my face. The gleaming blade sliced open his abdomen. Several tapeworms came crawling out in a bloody frenzy. With his last shred of consciousness, he mustered all his strength and cried out, the bugs, they've eaten my car, my house, all my money. On the last day of August, I packed my meager belongings, I stripped the bedsheets, retrieved the slightly musty admission letter that had been stored away, and walked out of that house of immeasurable sorrow without looking back. At 18, I finally left behind that home, the place that had consumed my entire previous life. My father and sister were dead. Mom survived, but she was left almost completely incapacitated. The live stream that day sparked a huge public outcry. The authorities awarded me a special 300,000 yuan bonus for leading the village to prosperity. Linda, the well-off woman from that day, ended up getting free positive publicity for her family business by standing up for me. I gleefully signed a long-term contract with the village chief, and readily agreed to help keep my mother hanging on to that last breath of life. That's just perfect. At least one of the three of them should live to see how well I'm doing. When I went off to college, I even had a pack of media outlets following my every move. The principal, along with a group of teachers, personally greeted me at the entrance when I arrived to register. The village head and his wife saw me off to the university, and before leaving, they handed me a card. This is your share from the orange sales. Focus on your studies, and if you need anything, just reach out to us. I gave them a hug. Oh, and I did something else pretty significant too. I looked at the university president smiling warmly at me in the brilliant sunlight. I introduced myself to him. Hello, President. I'm Jocelyn, an incoming freshman of the class of 2024. New life will bloom. Story 2. Don't think I don't know you're a raider. When my regret value for you reaches a certain level, you'll be able to complete the mission. The male lead sneered at me and said, just go and die. It will only be you who regrets it. I gave him an evil and charming smile and said, don't worry, you'll definitely regret it, buddy. After saying that, I jumped off the top of the building. 01. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a strange and simple room. Suddenly, a cold mechanical voice sounded in my mind. Welcome, host, to the Doomsday Zombie instance. There are still 5 months until the zombie outbreak. The mission this time is to build a sturdy fortress to hide in and stockpile enough supplies. You can clear the instance by surviving until the zombies are eliminated. 3 years later, the reward for clearing this instance is all the funds collected by the host in this world. Another world so soon. Did I clear the instance in the last world? I sat up, shook my dizzy head, and turned on my phone to check my funds. It was actually 0, just as I was about to ask a question. The system in my mind seemed to know what I was thinking and answered in advance. It's like this. The only source of funds for the host in this world is the regret value of the male lead in the last world. Each point of regret value corresponds to 10,000 yuan, and there is no upper limit to the regret value. That is to say, the more regret value the male lead has, the more funds the host will obtain in this world. Except for the regret value of the male lead, it is impossible for the host to obtain money through other methods. Oh, so that's how this game works. I smiled, recalling the words of the male lead Joseph before I jumped off the building. I asked, what's the clearance rate of this instance? The system gave me an answer that I expected. It's 0%. Oh, no raider has cleared the instance so far. 02. As expected, the male lead Joseph in the last world awakened and clearly knew that the female lead was there to raid him. It would be strange if he had regret value for them. Without enough money to support, it's impossible for an ordinary person to survive in such a zombie world. I'm no exception, but I wasn't too worried. I just calmly took a sip of water, then lay back on the bed and started playing with my phone. Seeing this, the system couldn't help but ask, host, are you really so confident that the male lead will definitely regret it? I just casually replied, don't worry, he will definitely regret it. Then I didn't say anything more and just focused on browsing short videos. The system didn't say anything either. I guess it thought I had given up. After all, Joseph already knew that I was a raider. When I jumped off the tall building in front of him, his regret value was even less than 01. I browsed short videos on the bed for a while, feeling a bit hungry. I got up to look for something to eat. Unexpectedly, this system is really ruthless. Not only did it not give me a single penny, but there was also no food in the room, only water. It's really true that all supplies can only be obtained from Joseph's regret value. I had no choice but to go out and stroll around the supermarket, grab some samples to taste, and then came back and went to bed. Before the next day dawned, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, the notification sound of a text message on my phone suddenly rang. 250,000 yuan has been credited to your mobile banking account. Woken up. I picked up my phone and took a look, a smile curving my lips. I told you that guy would. Definitely regretted. 03. At the same time, a large screen unfolded out of thin air in front of me, and I could clearly see what was going on with Joseph from here. Since the clearance conditions of this world are related to the last world, I can check Joseph's dynamics at any time. At this moment, Joseph was sitting in the company, staring at the computer with a frown. All the programmers in the company were also sitting in front of the computers, sweating profusely, working overtime desperately. Their fingers were flying non-stop, and their expressions were extremely anxious. Why hasn't it been fixed since noon until now? Joseph couldn't help but throw the documents in his hand onto the ground with a snap. His face, if it's still not fixed by tomorrow, the website will crash for a whole day. Do you know how much money I'll lose? Are all these programmers just eating for nothing? There are just a few bugs, and you still haven't fixed them in such a short time. The secretary beside him squatted down, picked up the documents, stole a glance at Joseph's face, thought for a few moments, and then carefully said, "Boss, it's not a few bugs, it's dozens." What? Joseph stood up with a whoosh in surprise, even overturning the chair, which made a loud noise as it fell to the ground. How could there be so many as dozens? Weren't there only a few when they were discovered at noon today? The secretary nervously explained beside him. It's like this, boss, after the bugs were discovered at noon today, the programmers rushed to fix them. However, more bugs were found during the repair process. So far, there are already dozens of them, and the number is likely to increase in the future. You'd better invite Miss Alba. Hearing the name of his beloved at this crucial moment, Joseph retorted angrily, "What's the point of inviting her? What does she know?" The secretary was taken aback when he heard this and replied hesitantly, "Wasn't the program of this website written by Miss Alba? If there are bugs in the program she wrote, only she can solve them. It's very difficult for others to fix them without hints." Joseph was stunned. I smiled, because none of the programs of this website were written by Alba at all. They were written by me. 04. Alba knew this, and Joseph knew it too. During the plot development, Alba took the program I wrote and gave it to Joseph, helping Joseph successfully earn the first pot of gold for his startup. When I discovered it and went to expose Alba, unexpectedly, Joseph thought I was framing his beloved just to get ahead. I was so emotional that I pushed Alba, but someone with ulterior motives recorded it and posted it online. Under Alba's deliberate instigation, netizens all thought I was a vicious and calculating woman who framed the girl beside the male god just to get ahead. They all launched a verbal attack on me, and I experienced a large-scale online violence, and Joseph, knowing the truth, chose to turn a blind eye during that time. I would even be given the cold shoulder by passers-by when I went out on the street. Some radical netizens even directly threw rotten eggs at me. My family in that world was also not spared. My elderly mother was insulted by netizens who came to our door, had a heart attack, and died on the spot. My father also chose to end his own life out of excessive grief. I changed from a talented girl majoring in computer science to a woman whose family was destroyed and who was hated by everyone. I suffered from severe depression because of this. I ran to question Joseph hoarsely, but he just sneered and said the words at the beginning, "Don't think I don't know you're a raider. When my regret value for you reaches a certain level, you'll be able to complete the mission." Well, since that's the case, I won't pretend anymore anyway. I always like to leave a backup plan when I do things, you see. He's already regretting it, isn't he? The system only said that the male lead should regret it, but it didn't say which way to make him regret it. 05. The bugs in the website kept increasing during the repair. By noon the next day, the number of bugs had reached an astonishing hundreds. The information of all the members on the website was damaged. A large number of members condemned Joseph's company online, demanding that he restore their accounts. The stock of Joseph's company also dropped rapidly, with at least several hundred million yuan in losses. And Joseph's regret value had reached 50 when I got up a little after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I happened to see Joseph suppressing his anger and comforting the crying Alba. "Joseph, it's all my fault. I didn't know things would turn out like this. I've already asked my dad to invite top foreign technicians, and they'll be here soon. I will definitely help you." Joseph, Alba nestled in Joseph's arms, crying so pitifully that even I felt sorry for her. Although Joseph's face didn't look good, he still patiently patted Alba's trembling shoulders and reluctantly comforted her. "It's okay, it's not your fault. Besides, there's not no solution." I raised my eyebrows in surprise. These two lovers are quite affectionate. However, it doesn't matter. These are just appetizers. The real surprise is still to come. I hope they can still be so affectionate by then. Thinking of the surprise I had prepared for Joseph later, I couldn't help but laugh out loud, but I don't have time to care about him right now. The most urgent thing is to purchase supplies. 06. The first supplies to Stockpile in the doomsday are not biscuits or instant noodles, but water. In the doomsday, it's very difficult to ensure clean water sources. Who knows if the filtration system can filter out those strange viruses? Boiling it is not reassuring either, since there are zombies. What if that virus can survive in high temperatures? So, a large amount of water should be stockpiled in advance. A sufficient and clean water source is one of the necessary conditions for surviving in the doomsday naturally. I contacted a pure water factory, took out 450,000 yuan, and ordered a large quantity of pure water. Many doomsday novels describe raiding supermarkets for supplies, but this is actually very dangerous. If you buy so many things in a supermarket at once, not only is the retail price expensive, but it will also arouse suspicion, leading to continuous troubles later. It's even possible that someone will learn about the doomsday in advance, if there is a situation of crazy grabbing of supplies at that time. It will be very bad. Directly purchasing from the factory will not arouse suspicion. The factory can also deliver the goods to your door, saving you from having to move them back and forth in a van. Moreover, factory orders are mainly characterized by a large quantity. You can get as much as you want, saving you from running around to different supermarkets. I'm going to stockpile supplies for 3 years, so it's most suitable to purchase from the factory. Seeing that I used most of the funds to buy pure water, the system couldn't help but ask, "Host, there are still 50,000 yuan left. Is it really enough to spend? There should be a lot of things to buy later, right?" I sneered and replied, "The 50,000 yuan left is for my food expenses in the next few days. This is just the beginning. It's just 500,000 yuan. There will be more money coming in later. Just wait." 07. After ordering the pure water, I immediately used the remaining money to have a big meal in a 5-star hotel. I ordered all the expensive dishes like abalone, sea cucumber, Australian lobster, king crab. I also opened a bottle of red wine worth 3,000 yuan. I sat leisurely in the restaurant of the 5-star hotel, listening to the melodious piano music beside me, sipping the red wine, and nibbling on the king crab legs. It was extremely comfortable. I deserve all of this. The female lead in the abusive novel in the previous world suffered so much. After the meal, I used the remaining money to take a bath, and hired 2 of the most handsome technicians to give me a massage. I lay on the heated stone bed, feeling drowsy. I wasn't worried that the 50,000 yuan would be spent up in advance either. After indulging in eating and drinking for a few days, when the funds were almost used up, Joseph's regret value increased by another 10 points. Although the top foreign technicians hired back could fix the bugs, it also took time. Not to mention that I had buried countless pitfalls in that program. It was pure luck that the program could even run, but the top foreign technicians were still very capable. Just half a month later, they fixed all the bugs I left behind. Hey, what a coincidence. The timed email I set was also sent at this time, 08, just after Joseph sent the top foreign technicians away and was regretting how many hundreds of millions of yuan his company had lost in the past half month. Suddenly, he saw a new email in his mailbox. This email was of course sent by me. In the email, I kindly told Joseph that I had previously hacked into the financial system of their company and had known a lot about their corporate tax affairs, and now, I had already packaged these tax issues, along with some business secrets and the evidence of Albus stealing my program, and stored them all in a computer in advance. Indiana, another 3 hours. The timed email would send all these materials to his competitors. As for the whereabouts of that computer, of course, only I know. Almost the moment he finished reading this email, Joseph's eyes went dark. He felt a pain in his heart, and the next second, he actually spat out a mouthful of blood, and my phone also received a notification of a fund transfer in a timely manner. 5 million yuan. Boss, what's wrong with you? The secretary beside him supported Joseph and shouted in a panic, "Quick, call 120. No need to call." Joseph held on to his last bit of strength, pushed the secretary away, and punched the desk hard. His eyes were blood red as he roared, "Sierra, you're really something." 09. Hearing the commotion, Alba rushed over in a hurry. When she saw the content on Joseph's phone, her legs went weak and she collapsed to the ground. What should we do? What should we do now? Alba panicked, her eyes wandering around. She slumped on the ground and murmured to herself. Then, she suddenly looked up, grabbed Joseph's pant leg, and begged with a sob, "Joseph, if this goes on, you have to think of a way, get lost." At this critical moment of the company's survival, Joseph had completely lost his patience with this stupid woman. He directly shook off her hand and shouted at her angrily, "All you know is how to cry when something happens. If you hadn't taken her program in the first place, would this have happened now?" Alba was thrown to the ground, and a look of disbelief flashed across her face, but it only lasted for a few seconds. Then she also shouted at Joseph, "But you also acquiesced. You were the one who told me that those raiders could be used For free, now you're blaming me. You only know how to shift the blame when something goes wrong. You're not even a real man. Alba's words stopped abruptly. Joseph angrily slapped her, threw the documents at her head, and roared, "Get lost. Our engagement is off." Alba was stunned by the slap. When she came to her senses, she let out a hysterical scream. She stood up and tried to hit back, but was pulled out by the company employees around her. Her cries and curses echoed throughout the company. I was lying on the warm bed in the bedroom at this time, watching the chaos in Joseph's company, munching on melon seeds, and laughing out loud. However, the next second, I heard Joseph's secretary hesitate and say, "Boss, there may still be a way to fix this." Hearing this, Joseph tried his best to calm down his emotions, signaled the security guards to drive Alba out, and then asked, "What do you mean?" The secretary said, "Since Miss Sierra hacked into our company's system, there should be some traces left. If we follow these traces, we can probably find out all the accounts in her personal name and the IP she is logged into. Maybe the account she used to send the email is among them. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that Miss Sierra is very excellent and didn't leave any traces of the intrusion. However, there are still 3 hours until the email is sent, and these 3 hours are enough for you to rush to the opponent's company and take control of the opponent's computer in advance, physically intercepting that email in time." I was in awe when I heard this. Goodness, the real business war is so simple and unadorned. Before, there was the naive president who rushed into the company to grab the official seal, and now, there is the male lead of the abusive novel who rushed into the enemy company to grab the computer. Amazing. After thinking for a while, Joseph actually agreed. After all, being convicted of the crime of damaging others' property is still better than going to prison. While I lowered my head to take a sip of water, Joseph had already taken a programmer and rushed out of the company, driving away at full speed. 11. At this time, I also started using the newly obtained 5 million yuan to continue ordering supplies. First of all, I bought an additional 500,000 yuan worth of pure water. I can't help it. Don't blame me for being so persistent about water. After all, in the doomsday, water resources are really too important. It's better to be prepared. After all, we need water for daily bathing, cooking, and so on. After buying the water, I started to stockpile regular canned food, noodles, and other things that can be stored for a long time. Many doomsday novels like to stockpile instant noodles, but in fact, we don't need to buy too many instant noodles, because if people eat instant noodles frequently, they will feel nauseous. At most, they can eat them for a month. After a month, they will feel like vomiting when they see instant noodles and definitely can't eat them. So, what should be stockpiled is the noodles without the seasoning packets. As for snacks and the like, just like instant noodles, we can buy them, but in small quantities. Cola is an exception. Sugar is an important source of daily energy. Moreover, in the doomsday, people are likely to get depressed, and sugar can also promote the secretion of dopamine, preventing people from having mental problems. Medicines are also essential for the doomsday, but I plan to buy them 3 days before the doomsday countdown. It's the same reason. Buying a large amount of medicines at once will arouse suspicion, and it will be bad if it causes a rush to buy them. We also need to buy dehydrated vegetable chips, although this thing tastes really bad. Vitamin C also needs to be supplemented. In addition, I bought a large number of candles, lighters, and alcohol blocks. I'm not without the idea of making a generator by myself in the doomsday, but it's better to be safe than sorry. We still need to take precautions. When I bought these things, the 5 million yuan was almost used up again. The system kindly reminded me, "Host, in the doomsday, if you have a large amount of supplies but don't have enough combat power, you will be regarded as a mobile supply station." 12. I know this kind of thing without the system telling me. After replenishing the basic supplies, I still need to build an absolutely safe shelter with the small broken door panel of this rental house now. It can definitely not stop the crazy people in the doomsday. In the doomsday, the most terrifying thing is not the zombies, but the people. I not only need a sturdy fortress, but also a large number of weapons, and this requires more money, much more money than 5 million yuan. However, I'm not worried at all. After ordering the supplies, I leisurely lay back on the bed and continued to watch what was happening with Joseph. It's not difficult for top technicians to find the traces of the intrusion by following the clues. They did find the IPs I had logged into and the accounts in my name smoothly. However, after they hacked in, they found that there was only one sentence in each of my accounts: "Congratulations, you've been tricked." When the top technicians were still thinking about what exactly they had been tricked into, Joseph received another email on his phone. He picked it up restlessly and took a look. Suddenly, his pupils shrank, his breathing became rapid, and he couldn't catch his breath. He rolled his eyes and fainted directly. The email he received was still a timed email sent by me, and the content of the email was also very simple, just a folder and an attached sentence. "You really believed that there were still 3 hours just because I said so? Handsome guy, you're really naive." Sending a heart. Needless to say, the content of that folder was all the tax materials and business secrets of Joseph's company. Without thinking, these things Should have been sent to the competitors by now. Joseph's hanging heart finally died completely, and at this moment, my phone actually received a notification that 100 million yuan had been credited to my account. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Joseph really has 10,000 regrets in his heart, in the literal sense. Hahaha. 13. Seeing Joseph faint. The driver was so scared that he quickly turned around and rushed him to the hospital at full speed, and the first thing Joseph said after being rescued was actually, "It's not over yet. Everything is not over yet. There's still time. Quickly help me up now. It's still time to rush to the opponent's company now." The secretary who was accompanying him thought that Joseph had been hit so hard that he had gone crazy. He was just about to let him sign the gift agreement while taking advantage of the chaos, but Joseph grabbed him and shouted, "It's true, I remember. Didn't you report to me before that the president of the One Group was negotiating a big deal at this time today? It's highly likely that he hasn't read the email yet. As long as we rush to his company before he finishes the negotiation, grab his phone and computer, and delete the email, it will be okay." The secretary looked at Joseph's crazy appearance with a rather indescribable expression and didn't reply, but at this time, Joseph didn't care about many things. He directly pulled out the needle on the back of his hand, jumped off the hospital bed, and rushed out. No one could stop him. His only thought now is that even if there was only a 0.01% chance, he had to fight for it. He really couldn't afford to lose and could only take a gamble. He had gone crazy, driven crazy by Sierra, a rare and extraordinary woman in both ancient and modern times. Which female lead has ever made the male lead of an abusive novel regret using this method? 14. After laughing at Joseph's crazy appearance on the screen for a while, I started to continue buying supplies first, several flashlights and countless batteries, as well as some electronic devices, such as computers, projectors, and so on. Although there will be no internet in the doomsday, as I said before, I have a plan to generate electricity by myself in the doomsday. If this plan goes smoothly, devices like computers and projectors can be used normally, just without the ability to access the internet. Then I just need to download a large number of movies in advance. Indiana: The Lonely Doomsday. I probably won't be bored, for the same entertainment reasons. I also bought a large number of novels and comics. Naturally, warm clothes and bedding can't be left out. In the doomsday, water sources need to be used very sparingly, so naturally, we can't use water to wash clothes, so we definitely need to buy a large number of these things, enough for 3 years. After successively buying some miscellaneous supplies, I finally started to hire workers to dig the foundation. 15. The shelter in the doomsday naturally can't be too high profile. If it becomes a target, no matter what kind of defense it has, it can't stop the attacks of crazy people, so it's best to build the shelter underground. Fortunately, the location given to me by the system is a small dilapidated house in the suburbs. This kind of place is very suitable for building a shelter. A small dilapidated house with a shabby appearance won't attract people's attention at all after people come in and search around. If they think there's nothing to gain, they will leave. They will never think that there's a shelter hidden underground. On the contrary, villas and the like in various doomsday novels are very eye-catching and are extremely likely to become targets. However, we can't ignore the situation after the shelter is discovered either, so the whole shelter should be made of steel of bank vault level that is 1 meter thick. Yes, that's right, 1 meter thick steel. Because we must consider the extreme situation, that is, the other party may use explosives or other more lethal weapons. The defense must be done to the extreme, and we should build as many shelters as possible. As the saying goes, a crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. Considering the worst situation, that is, if the shelter is breached, I can still escape to another more hidden shelter, and since the other party can breach the shelter, they must have spent a huge amount of manpower and material resources. It's highly likely that they won't think of, and won't have the strength and resources to breach the next shelter. I calculated the time. In less than 5 months, even with extreme rush work, I can at most build 2 shelters. In that case, 100 million yuan is still a bit insufficient. After all, I still need to get weapons. 16. After finishing these things, I looked at my watch and found that the time was almost up, so I opened the large screen again. At this moment, Joseph on the screen was arguing furiously with the taxi driver. The original driver who sent him to the hospital found that the car was leaking oil and sent it for repair, so Joseph had to hail a taxi at the hospital gate, and this taxi was driving him in the completely opposite direction. Are you kidding me? I said I want to go to the One Group. Which way are you going? Drive me back immediately, otherwise, I'll complain about you. Joseph was so angry that he almost grabbed the steering wheel, but the taxi driver turned a deaf ear and just drove silently. I laughed. I tampered with Joseph's car to make it leak oil, and This taxi driver was the second male lead in the original book who was also driven to ruin by him. Before I jumped off the building, I found the second male lead and told him my plan, asking him to drive past the hospital building at the specified time. The second male lead was of course very happy to be able to take revenge on Joseph. I didn't know in advance that Joseph would awaken. It's just that I like to make double insurance, so, from the very beginning, I made up my mind that no matter whether Joseph sincerely regretted it after my death or not, I would carry out this plan as usual. The purpose is to ensure that Joseph will regret it 100%. After all, who would bet on a man's sincerity? A gambler doesn't deserve others to regret losing you. 17. I see, you were sent by Sierra, right? This crazy woman. How much did she pay you? I'll give you double, no, triple. Drive me back to the normal route immediately. Joseph's eyes were blood red, and he shouted at the driver almost crazily. However, the driver still remained unmoved. Are you deaf? Answer me. Joseph punched the back of the driver's seat, and my phone received another reminder that 30 million yuan had been credited to my account. My plan was very good, to trap Joseph in this car like this, let him watch helplessly as he gets farther and farther away from his goal, and be unable to do anything even if he knows the way to save the situation, so that his regret value will continue to increase exponentially. However, Joseph was obviously pushed to the brink of madness. After failing to communicate with the driver several times, he actually opened the car door and jumped out of the car directly. The moment I saw him jump out of the car, I raised my eyebrows in surprise, and my heart actually tightened as well. Wouldn't he die? I still don't have enough funds. Fortunately, evil people live a long life. After rolling a few times, Joseph actually got up from the ground unharmed, except for a little blood on his forehead and some scratches on his hands. He ignored the strange looks of the passers-by around him, directly pushed away the passers-by who wanted to come up and help, rushed straight to a shared bicycle, scanned the code, and then rode away in a hurry. The scene of the dignified company president riding a shared bicycle on the road with his big butt sticking out was really a bit funny, and I was even choked by my saliva. I have to say that Joseph still has a bit of luck. When he rushed to the headquarters of the Wang Group, the president of the One Group was actually still negotiating a deal with the client and showed no sign of looking at his phone at all. 18. Joseph was overjoyed. He felt that heaven hadn't abandoned him. He directly pushed away the security guards and secretaries who tried to stop him, rushed into the meeting room, and while the president of the One Group was in a daze, he forcibly pressed the other party on the sofa and reached into the other party's clothes without asking. This scared the president of the One Group so much that he shrank his butt several times and shouted for help at the top of his lungs. He wasn't this flustered even when Joseph almost drove him bankrupt. Some people around came up to break up the fight, and some secretly took out their phones to take pictures of this explosive scene. They even thought of the headline for tomorrow's news in their hearts. The young and promising group president Joseph forcefully showed his love to the 50-year-old group president, who says the prerequisite for being loved must be beauty. They should be able to extort a large sum of money from the One Group. People's potential is limitless in special moments. Joseph's strength at this moment was astonishing. Despite the strenuous efforts of the people around to stop him, he managed to take out the president of the One Group's phone, forced the other party to unlock it with his fingerprint, then clicked into the email, found the email I sent, deleted it, clicked into the recycle bin, emptied it, and then formatted the phone. Then, he broke through the numerous obstacles and ran to the president of the One Group's office and did the same operation on his computer. Only then did Joseph finally feel relieved. At this time, all the security guards of the company building also arrived and subdued Joseph. I clearly saw that Joseph's regret value stopped increasing. But my basement hasn't been built yet. 19. Fortunately, the matter wasn't over yet, Joseph thought. Everything was fine. When facing the police's interrogation, he just said that he was temporarily out of his mind and even requested to undergo relevant psychiatric appraisals, trying to escape legal responsibility by feigning mental illness. However, when the police placed the evidence of his illegal and criminal acts in front of him, Joseph was completely stunned. Hadn't he deleted everything at this moment? His phone received another text message. It was still sent by me, and the content was still just one sentence. Since I said I would send it to your competitor, of course, Mrs. Wang also has a copy. You silly boy. As I said, I like to take double precautions when I do things. At this time, with a ding-dong sound, the phone received another reminder that 500 million yuan had been credited to the account. 20. In the end, of course, Joseph ended up in prison, spending his days in jail accompanied by endless regret, and my funds continued to grow, and what Alba had done was also made public. Her image as a perfect goddess collapsed, and for a while, everyone wanted to condemn and attack her, and she lived a very miserable life. As for me, of course, I continued to build my Doomsday Fortress. When the Doomsday Fortress was almost completed, and there was still 1 month left before the Doomsday, I went to buy 5 trucks. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want to be some kind of doomsday savior building a Noah's Ark to save humanity. Instead, I considered that there might be situations where I had to go out in the doomsday. At that time, driving a modified heavy-duty truck out would definitely give me a great sense of security, and considering that the trucks might be damaged, I bought 5 of them in one go. It's better to be prepared. Of course, I only paid the down payment for all of them. It's the doomsday who would pay the full amount for such things. If it weren't for this damned system restricting me from obtaining funds in other ways, I would even want to apply for a credit card. Since I bought the trucks, I naturally also stocked up on diesel and tires. After getting the trucks, I replaced all the compartments with bank-level protective steel plates. Of course, they were thinner than those in the basement. Regarding weapons, it's relatively difficult for ordinary people to obtain them, but fortunately, I have the system. Based on the fact that I need to survive in such a doomsday environment, as long as I have enough funds, I can purchase a large number of weapons with the help of the system. In this regard, the system is quite decent. 21. After the underground shelter was built, I went to buy a large number of animals such as chickens, ducks, geese, and rabbits. Needless to say, I definitely plan to raise them in my base for the convenience of eating meat in the future. I also stocked up a lot of feed. Moreover, these 4 kinds of animals can eat the same kind of feed, rice bran. People in the city don't know this, but I grew up in the countryside. I'm used to seeing villagers feeding meat rabbits with rice bran, plus the vegetable stocks left over from daily vegetable preparation. The rabbits grew fat and white. Meat rabbits are actually unexpectedly sturdy. They won't die easily like pet rabbits, and the difficulty of raising them is extremely low. When everything was stocked up, 3 days before the doomsday, I ran around major pharmacies and purchased the required medicines, as well as medications for livestock. I actually thought about growing vegetables in the base, but since there is no sunlight in the base, this idea couldn't be realized for the time being. Considering that there might be no sunlight for 3 years, I also bought a bunch of calcium tablets. Naturally, my behavior of purchasing a large amount of medicines aroused suspicion, so I didn't hide it anymore and directly told the store owner that the doomsday was coming in 3 days. But no one believed me, and they thought I was joking. This was within my expectations. If you are hesitant and forced to reveal the truth, it will naturally seem more believable, but if you tell the truth readily, people will instead think that you are not telling the truth. This is human nature. 22. After making all the preparations, the doomsday finally arrived. I stayed in the base and watched through my phone as people around the world frequently mutated due to a virus of unknown origin. Later, the phenomenon of people cannibalizing each other appeared. The authorities tried to suppress it, but the virus was so aggressive that there was no cure for it, and it was highly contagious. Soon, the whole city, and even the whole country, turned into a base for zombies. After a few days, my phone couldn't receive a signal anymore. I stayed in the base for about 3 months, estimating that most of the survivors outside were probably dead. I drove my modified truck out of the base. I wanted to try out the self-generated electricity plan that I had conceived before. To implement this plan, I first needed a few not-so-smart zombies, with weapons and a truck at hand. It was easy to catch zombies. These things couldn't die. I directly tied these zombies to the back of the truck and dragged them back to the base. In the base, there was a large treadmill that I had bought long ago. The treadmill was covered with a sturdy iron cage, and the zombies' mouths definitely couldn't gnaw through it. The male lead, Joseph, in the previous world awakened and clearly knew that the female lead was there to him. It would be strange if he had regret value for them. The running of the zombies drove the track on the treadmill, making it keep rotating. I also hung a live chicken in front of the zombies and found that they reacted to the live chicken as well. In this way, a zombie-powered perpetual motion machine was made. Wasn't it? 23. One treadmill generating electricity was definitely not enough, so I prepared 100 of them. So, in the following days, I lived a life of going out to catch zombies every day. After 2.5 months, I finally caught enough zombies, and my self-generated electricity plan was successfully completed. I sat on a rocking chair, drinking tea, and looking at countless zombies working diligently on the full 100 treadmills in front of me. I felt like the Jobapi, a notorious miser in Chinese literature, of the doomsday. Of course, with my level of caution, I definitely had to take sufficient precautions for so many zombies. Therefore, I wouldn't enter this area anymore in the future. I would only operate from the upper level, regularly replacing the live chickens through the skylight to stimulate the zombies, and in case of any accident, there was also a one-click self-destruction device. Pressing it would blow up this place. With the protective level of my underground shelter, the explosives would only kill the zombies but not be strong enough to destroy the shelter. In the days to come, my daily life was to lie in bed and watch the pre-downloaded projections, or read books, listen to music, and Check the balance of 1 billion yuan in my phone, which continued to rise every day. I guess Joseph in prison must regret it deeply. I hope his prison term will be longer. In the 7 days before the apocalypse, my best friend and I happened to have stockpiled a large quantity of supplies, and incredibly, we managed to survive. But in the midst of chaos, with us guarding a heap of supplies, were we truly fortunate, or were we just seen as easy prey in the eyes of other survivors? 1. Countdown. 7 days. I've always been incredibly lucky throughout my life, really. You might not believe it. I just scraped into a prestigious high school and later, barely made the cut for Oxford University. After graduation, I landed a job offer despite fierce competition, except, a few days ago, I was laid off when my company downsized. I followed legal procedures and ended up with a decent severance package, just when I planned to waste away in my apartment, living a life of hedonistic abandon. Alice called me to come stay at her spacious apartment and perhaps change the scenery of my aimless days. While agreeing, I ordered all sorts of my favorite snacks and instant foods online, sending them all to Alice's place. Being a programmer is truly exhausting. I needed a break. Oh, I forgot to mention, Alice is my childhood best friend and practically family. My parents passed away early, and Alice's parents, who were friends with my mom, took me in. They managed to get us both through college, but tragically, they died in a car accident. Alice is a popular unboxing streamer with hundreds of thousands of followers, making her quite popular among brands. Alice's apartment is filled with snacks in one room, household supplies in another, and half the living room is stocked with rice and oils. Her apartment is located in the suburbs, despite her good income from streaming. After considering the property prices in City A, she decided to buy her place here. The 23rd floor offers an excellent view, and the building's design of one apartment per floor provides both security and a sense of luxury. After buying her apartment, Alice cried poor for a while. At that time, I was earning well and generously upgraded her door to the highest security level and installed bulletproof windows. Alice is a streamer and had soundproofing installed throughout her home. A few days ago, a solar panel manufacturer sent her a solar power system, which I installed for her. When I arrived, as per Alice's request, I made a special trip to the courier station to pick up her parcels. The courier even joked, "This pretty much supports half of our station. Good thing my car is an SUV, otherwise, I couldn't have fit the 20 or so packages." I'm truly grateful that Alice works from home, and I was coincidentally laid off, otherwise, we might never have seen each other again. 2. Countdown. 6 days. Suddenly free from the pressures of intense work, I found myself restless, while browsing culinary videos by influencers on Little Red. I thought I might give it a try too. I dragged Alice, who could comfortably stay indoors for months, straight to the supermarket. My former company had great benefits, including gift cards for groceries and electronics during holidays, which I took with me to Alice's place. The cookware at the supermarket seemed to be on sale. Alice, who came along under the pretense of accompanying me, ended up buying more enthusiastically than anyone else. We bought an air fryer, and I plan to also pick up some chicken wings to try out recipes. Not wanting to waste my cooking skills, we got a small electric cooker too, so convenient for cooking noodles. I also grabbed some spicy snail noodles, not remembering how many I'd ordered on web the day before. Better to buy extra. As I was about to pick up some meat, I noticed Alice approaching with a cart full of yogurt and mineral water. The water in City A is hard, so most people store purified water at home. In Alice's case, she has an entire room filled with it, mainly because she's too lazy to frequently reorder and has the water company deliver in bulk. This yogurt is incredibly tasty. I was amazed when the manufacturer sent some over last time. Let's stock up on this. And oh, this mineral water supposedly contains essential minerals, though I'm not exactly sure what they are, Alice said, adding more to the cart. Buy more, buy more. They urged me. I just sighed. It turns out Alice and I are a formidable shopping duo. The cashier couldn't stop smiling as we checked out. "Hello, here are 2 small first aid kits and a coupon for the purified water factory for you. Do you need these delivered?" the cashier asked. "No, thank you," I replied. Since the end of the pandemic, the government had relaxed controls on medicines. Despite being called small, the medical kits were surprisingly well stocked. Once we got to the car, Alice opened one to check and found it contained an impressive variety of medications. The purified water coupon offered 50 free barrels with the purchase of 50, I remembered that Alice's attic was empty and unused. It's great having the top floor. It even came with a small attic, almost like a little loft. We only have about 10 barrels of water left at home. Let's just use the coupon to avoid running out, I suggested. The water factory promised delivery within 3 hours. Suddenly, I remembered the empty fish tank at Alice's place. "Let's go buy some fish. It'd be a waste to leave that tank empty," I proposed. "You wouldn't believe it, but these manufacturers are quirky. They send me a fish tank without any fish. How am I supposed to advertise for them? They send me potting soil but no seeds. What should I do? Plant myself. They even sent me a huge box of ice cream once, and I had to buy a large freezer on the spot to store it. Right in my study, Alice complained, buying a freezer just for ice cream. Classic Alice, no. We were buying all sorts of meats for the freezer, aligning well with the consumer habits of young people today. Honestly, Alice and I didn't used to stock up on groceries. It all started the year before last when Alice came to visit me downtown. A sudden outbreak led to our block being quarantined, and we found ourselves staring at an empty fridge until volunteers brought food. We survived on water for 2 days. Since then, we've made it a habit to stock up, and thanks to technological advancements, anything we buy can be tossed into the freezer and kept fresh. Alice and I aren't quite sure how much our freezer can hold. When we got home, the water delivery guy was already there, panting as he hauled the barrels upstairs. Oh, these days so many people are ordering water because of a promotion with the supermarket, he said. It's mainly because these items last so long now. I laughed. After the water delivery, I started organizing the freezer. It was packed full, seeing the ice cream stored inside. I just took it out, 2 big tubs of it. Alice and I each grabbed one, blowing the cold air away as we stuffed our faces. It's too cold, eat quickly, we can't let it go to waste, countdown, 5 days my order of Nanchang noodles and instant porridge arrived. The weather wasn't too cold, and seeing the flood of delivery notifications on my phone, I decided to pick up my parcels today to avoid any hassle tomorrow. Just as I was about to leave, Alice, peeling off a face mask, said energetically, I'll come with you. I just received 10 parcels. It turns out being lazy has its perks. Thank goodness I drove over. Wow, all 10 of Alice's packages were bulky mineral water, waffles. While sorting, I even found a whole wall of sanitary pads. Is this the perk of being an unboxing streamer with hundreds of thousands of followers? For the next few days, apart from retrieving parcels, I just lounged at home. My streaming service subscription was about to expire, and, annoyed, I downloaded a USB drive's worth of TV shows and variety programs for offline viewing. No way was I going to let these apps profit off me. After days of organizing, I realized just how much stuff Alice had. Simply put, her supplies could keep 2 people indoors for about 5 years, and that's taking into account some items expiring. Zombie outbreak. I had just finished making breakfast when I got a message from the courier station saying there was a parcel for me. Alice and I had a parcel to collect, so right after lunch, without even clearing the dishes, we headed out to pick it up. Today's delivery included some bread and a variety of miscellaneous items sent to Alice. Although the courier station was just outside our residential area, we both preferred to drive there. Carrying the parcels all the way back on foot would have been exhausting. As we were driving, we noticed a young man standing not too far from Alice's parking spot. He was dressed in a windbreaker and stood motionless. When we were getting into the car, he seemed to glance our way and staggered a few steps toward us. It just shows that young people these days really need to keep fit, I remarked. Look at that guy, so young and he can barely walk. I wholeheartedly agreed with my own observation, and Alice and I excitedly discussed an upcoming talent show. When the courier station staff handed Alice the last parcel, a loud argument suddenly broke out in a steamed bun shop a few doors away. The staff member quickly shoved the parcel into our car and dashed off to see what the commotion was about. We had to pass that bun shop on our way back to our complex. I managed to get an eager Alice back into the car. What's the rush? Planning to drive back later. Little did I know that this decision would save our lives. Before starting the car, I was replying to some messages from a former colleague on my phone. Just as I started the engine, the courier guy who had gone to check out the fight ran back toward us, followed by several people. They moved oddly, and all were covered in blood. As soon as I started the car, the courier dashed back into the station and hurriedly rolled down the shutter. The group of people continued to charge forward, seemingly impervious to pain. I was about to stop and check, but Alice grabbed me, her face pale. They're zombies, she said. At her words, I turned pale too. No less than a dozen people were now running from the direction of the bun shop. I quickly stepped on the gas, heading toward our complex. Fortunately, the automatic gate of our complex was very responsive, preventing us from getting trapped at the entrance. Alice climbed to the back seat and grabbed the parcels. Once I stop, you get out. We have nothing to defend ourselves with, and those parcels might buy us some time if we run into those creatures. Without hesitation, Alice flipped down the seat and crawled to the back. The man we had encountered earlier turned out to be a zombie. He was still spinning in place. As we drove past, he paused to look at us, then continued his aimless spinning. Alice had already pulled out the access and elevator cards. We'll stop right at the entrance to our building. No time to be law-abiding citizens now. As soon as I parked, I shoved the keys into my pocket, and Alice quickly handed me a few parcels. The lobby was bright and clear, showing no signs of intrusion. We swiped into the building and hurried to the elevator. Once home, we would be safe. We were fortunate. Our building's one apartment per floor. Design minimized our risk exposure. Once inside, we both sat on the floor, catching our breath. After some time, as if waking from a nightmare, we jumped up to check all the doors and windows. Alice's apartment was on the 23rd floor, the highest in this suburban area, so we weren't worried about the window's security. Our only fear was that someone might know we were inside. United in silent agreement, we took out some heavy curtains that a manufacturer had sent us a few days ago. We had been too lazy to hang them then, but now they were necessary. After hanging the curtains, Alice and I moved several water containers behind the door. Although we knew the door's security was adequate, we were still frightened. Our phones were flooded with alerts. Upon checking, we found endless messages. Both Alice and I were seasoned fans of post-apocalyptic stories. Alice found a collapsible bucket for collecting water, while I hurried to wash the dishes while we still had running water. We also organized the supplies at home, including promotional items from manufacturers and some instant food I had bought. Sorting the food by expiration date, we kept ourselves busy, hoping it would keep the fear at bay. In the afternoon, with considerable courage, Alice and I dared to peek outside by pulling the curtains back slightly. Zombies have started wandering around our neighborhood, and it's unclear where they came from. The floors are too high to see if there are any bloodstains on the ground. I moved to another window, and Alice pulled out the binoculars she had just found, easily revealing the city's downfall. On the muted TV, a disheveled expert spoke rapidly, declaring this a catastrophe for all humanity. The cause was still unknown, and residents were urged to wait for rescue. As the nation wouldn't abandon anyone, I grabbed a couple of tear-apart bread rolls and a bottle of milk each for Alice and me, just to have something to eat. Do you know, I'm still scared. What if we had gone to check out the commotion this morning? Would we have been able to come back? I really don't want to think about that what if, because the cost of a wrong decision is something I truly can't afford. This is the first time I realized how desolate and quiet a city could be at night. Under the warm yellow glow of the solar streetlights, only zombies roamed aimlessly, with no cars speeding or humans bustling about. Day 2 of the zombie outbreak. Last night, Alice and I just sat on the couch, staring blankly at each other. And I don't even remember how we fell asleep. It was really cold in a city at night. Around 3 or 4 in the morning, Alice woke up freezing and nudged me awake, and we grabbed more blankets from the room. Looking back, Alice and I really weren't that timid, not even thinking to set up a watch. The number of zombies in the neighborhood hadn't increased or decreased. While munching on bread, I suddenly remembered the 3 years of architecture classes I audited during college. Deeply influenced by the works of renowned architects, I made every effort to audit architecture classes during college, but by the second half of my junior year, I saw a hunched old professor on the phone with a client, drastically altering a beautifully planned architectural drawing to meet the client's demands, stripping it of any artistic spirit and leaving it vulgar. I remember angrily asking the professor why he wouldn't stand by his principles, as anyone with architectural training could see the original design's merit. He asked me if I thought it was always possible to stick to one's principles in life. I was so furious I stormed out and never attended another lecture. Later, I started my own career. Thinking about this, I suddenly felt like crying. If that professor survives this catastrophe, I must visit him. I suggested to Alice that, since the zombie situation wasn't too severe yet, we should build a dry toilet on the rooftop. After all, it was only the second day, and most people still had food at home. It'd be harder to do this in a few days as more people would be out looking for food, and it would be bad if they discovered us. It's not that we don't trust the government, but from yesterday until now, there has only been one news broadcast, with no sign of things like population registration or distribution of supplies. Alice took my hand to the rooftop, pointing at the half-completed garden left from a biodiversity conference, now abandoned. At least that solved our sanitation issue. In the afternoon, a celebrity suddenly started a live broadcast on social media, instantly overshadowing the emergency alerts issued by the government and shooting to the top of the trending list. In the live stream, a tearful young woman sobbed, "I'm so scared, my manager didn't make it, and now I'm all alone. I'm currently at 78 Nanchu Avenue, B City. Any fans or friends around? Please come save me." Alice and I munched on chips as we watched the crying girl. What a fool. While we were watching, several drones suddenly flew by, circling overhead without making announcements or dropping supplies. Since yesterday, Alice and I have kept the lights off, not cooking at all for 2 days, just surviving on bread and milk. We just aren't in the mood to cook. In the evening, suddenly the sound of a square dance blared from somewhere, attracting dozens of zombies. Only then did I see that the sound came from the residential block opposite ours. The door to the unit was left open, and soon the cries of children could be heard. Although the sounds of the square dance had stopped, the people of Country Z inherently possess a strong sense of unity. In the residents' group chat, a family mentioned their child's crying and pleaded for help, asking everyone to save them. About a minute later, the sound of the most dazzling ethnic style blasted from the building next door. The music was extremely penetrating and quickly attracted many zombies towards it. Don't be afraid. No one lives below the 10th floor of our building, and we've sealed the security doors. This seemed like an innate kindness engraved in their bones. Everyone always thought about helping each other, believing that the difficulties would eventually pass and normalcy would return. Day 3 of the zombie outbreak. Last night, Alice was on watch. When I got up in the morning, I found that Alice had planted the seeds we bought when we also went to buy fish. So far, the power hadn't been cut off, and occasionally someone in the community chat would ask when rescue might arrive. Everyone tacitly avoided answering. At noon, someone suggested planting things at home, like potatoes, which are extremely easy to grow and filling. Immediately, someone replied that they had run out of potatoes at home. In the afternoon when Alice woke up, we had a small meeting. Alice mentioned that an elderly lady lived on the 7th floor of our building. The lady's husband had passed away early, and her daughter lived abroad, in this society where neighborhood relations were indifferent. The elderly lady, despite the distance of several floors, had given Alice a lot of warmth. Since the outbreak began, the elderly lady had reached out to Alice once to ask how she was doing and if she was safely at home. Older people tend to hoard food, but certainly not as much as Alice and I had. The elderly lady's floor was lower, and yesterday's events had alerted Alice, making her want to bring the lady over. It wasn't without reason that Alice wanted to bring her. The elderly lady had truly been kind to her. After learning that Alice's parents were gone, the elderly lady had given Alice money for New Year's and often invited her over for homemade dumplings and buns. The building's one apartment per floor design meant that one only needed an elevator card for the elderly lady's home. Fortunately, Alice indeed had one, given to her by the elderly lady to make it convenient for Alice to come over for meals. What we needed to confirm now was the elderly lady's safety. Alice quickly received a reply after messaging the elderly lady. The lady assured her that she was safe, with at least a month's worth of food at home, and told us not to come for her. She also mentioned that since seeing what happened to that family yesterday, she had locked up the fire door. This meant that bringing the elderly lady to us was almost risk-free. Alice and I, being avid fans of post-apocalyptic scenarios, knew that if the military were also infected with the zombie virus, we would soon face cutoffs in water, power, and communication, which would be disastrous for the elderly lady. It was winter, so we were already dressed warmly. Alice also brought out a helmet and a mask, and we each carried a kitchen knife. Fully armed as we left the house, Alice retrieved the elderly lady's elevator card and told her to wait for our call before opening the door, not even if we knocked, as expected. The elderly lady was right. When Alice and I reached the 7th floor, we found the lady had secured the fire door with a large lock. After Alice called her, the elderly lady opened the door. The elderly lady appeared to be in her 60s and was in good spirits. Alice and I looked around and started packing up everything useful from the lady's home into several large bags. Through Alice, I learned that the elderly lady had been a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner at the city hospital and had many Chinese medicinal materials at home, even over 30 barrels of drinking water. Considering the elevator's weight capacity, we made 7 or 8 trips to move all the useful items from the elderly lady's home to the 23rd floor. After we moved everything, the elderly lady had already prepared a meal, and her cooking was much better than ours, making this meal incredibly emotional for us. In the afternoon, Alice cleared out a room. The bed was covered with velvety flannel and thick quilts. Alice said, "Grandma, although it's cold, we dare not turn on the air conditioning. It's manageable now, but I'm afraid we'll run out of food in a few days." You're doing the right thing. I also wouldn't dare to use the air conditioning when I was at home. Day 7 of the zombie outbreak, the power went out. Alice's family was using solar panels, so they didn't notice the blackout right away. It was only after seeing discussions in the community group chat that they became aware. The elderly lady found out early in the morning that people were furiously venting in the group chat. In modern society, electricity and the internet are especially crucial, so the moment the power went out, it was immediately noticed. Yesterday was Alice's turn to keep watch at night, so by the time I got up, Alice was just heading to sleep. The grandmother's cooking skills were unmatched. A bowl of white porridge with a dish of pickles brought from her home tasted incredibly good. As I ate, I chatted with the grandmother and suddenly mentioned that we shouldn't eat too many Pickles, I asked. Shouldn't we eat less of this stuff? Before the grandmother could answer, I suddenly heard a piercing scream. The sound was so penetrating that I quickly ran to the window and opened a corner of the curtain. I saw a horde of zombies storming towards a particular building. Due to the angle, I couldn't see the whole process or which building the zombies were heading to. Fortunately, there are always those fearless souls in the community group, even at times like this, who didn't forget to record everything on video. The voice in the video sounded like a middle-aged man. It's the building unit opposite me. Oh man, I heard a child crying last night. You might not have heard it from afar. Through the video shared by that person, one could clearly see groups of zombies moving inside. Who knows which fool went out for supplies and didn't close the unit door, or who is the idiot that opened the fire door. The zombies slowly climbed up, and beyond that, it was hard to see. Few minutes later, someone finally replied in the group chat, "Damn it, I'm in that building. There's a stupid family on the 3rd floor, a couple with an old lady, and their spoiled child. The kid throws tantrums all the time, demanding everything and threatening to hurt himself if he doesn't get his way. How could the parents really let him do it? Last night, the kid was fussing about wanting pineapple, going door to door. Doesn't he see what times we're living in? This morning, the kid ran out." And the old lady started wailing. I'm speechless. Thankfully, I live on a higher floor, otherwise, I'd be doomed to die with them. Before the apocalypse, most people would steer clear of such spoiled children whenever possible, avoiding trouble at all costs. Perhaps it was this attitude that left these kids utterly unprepared for the apocalypse, still believing that crying and making a fuss would get them everything as before. The stockpile of an average household might last half a month, but with the power out, how long could their stored supplies really last? Sure enough, in the afternoon, I saw 3 girls run out of a building, each armed with knives and sticks. Their hair was short, seemingly cut in haste, and even from a distance, it looked quite messy. The girls were extremely cautious, but luck was not on their side. Just as they ran out of the residential building, they encountered a zombie. The girl at the back was closing the building's door when suddenly a zombie appeared from somewhere. Fortunately, the girl with blonde hair was vigilant and immediately fought the zombie. The girl with red hair also turned back and struck it with her knife, then cautiously checked the surroundings to ensure the building's door was locked before they continued towards the gate of the community. Locking the door was to prevent zombies from entering the building, ensuring their safe return and adding a layer of protection for the residents inside. At the very least, these girls showed a sense of public duty with the power outage. The automatic doors at the entrance were naturally rendered useless. I wonder what happened to those girls afterward. Ever since the elderly lady arrived, Alice and I haven't needed to lift a finger in the garden. If we ever get so bored that we want to water the plants, the old lady shuffles us away, telling us not to make things worse. The temperature seems to be dropping day by day. Alice's place lacks any form of thermometer, so we rely solely on how it feels. The old lady also mentioned that it might snow soon. Once it starts snowing, survival becomes even more challenging, with hunger and cold hitting us simultaneously. Around 4 or 5 in the evening, just as Alice was waking up, I saw a car drive in during my watch. It was a common family sedan. I noticed the car stopped right in front of the building where the 3 girls had left from. A girl with blonde hair popped out from the back seat, looked around, and then the other 2 emerged. They opened the door and entered the building, carrying a load of supplies. 3 had gone out, and 3 had returned, a precious rarity in these apocalyptic times. Alice, her hair a mess, watched for a while and remarked, "If it were me, I'd probably starve at home rather than dare to go out." Alice used to scream the loudest and get the most scared when we watched zombie movies together. She would often cover her face with her hands, peeking through her fingers. As soon as zombies appeared, she'd start screaming with her eyes shut. After watching a zombie movie, she wouldn't even dare to visit the underground parking, fearful of a sudden zombie appearance. As time passed, she'd call me to watch another zombie movie, and the cycle would repeat. On the 9th day of the apocalypse, the internet went down. Alice discovered it. The usually buzzing neighborhood chat group had been silent all morning. She tried sending a punctuation mark through the file transfer assistant, but the message just kept spinning before eventually failing to send. In recent days, some people from our community had ventured out, some returning laden with supplies, others never to be seen again. Since taking in the old lady, we hadn't stepped outside, and the lack of rescue seemed to hint that the apocalypse was indeed upon us. Otherwise, why would there be no rescue after so long? In the afternoon, the sky suddenly turned grim. Alice brought out 3 thick cotton jackets from the storage room, commenting, "These were gifts from the factory last year, said to be exceptionally warm, but I don't really know how good they are." About 15 minutes later, snow began to fall. Normally, such a day would call for a hot pot session, but these are apocalyptic times after all. I thought about it and brought out the self-heating hot pots we had bought earlier. Alice and I are both hot pot enthusiasts. After I luckily landed a job at an internet tech giant and got caught up in the 996 work culture, eating out became a luxury, so I started collecting self-heating hot pots. With my recent unemployment, I even bought 2 boxes of decent-tasting self-heating hot pots. Alice and I love spicy food, but we chose a milder tomato and beef hot pot for the old lady. After finishing our mini hot pot, we finally felt a bit warmer, but the snow outside was getting heavier. We had accumulated 3 large bags of household waste to survive longer. It was crucial to maintain safety and hygiene. Keeping so much trash inside was clearly impractical. The old lady, with her wealth of life experience, suggested an idea. Considering Alice's house was filled with various materials, including 5 or 6 fish tanks, the old lady proposed inverting the glass fish tanks over the trash and burning it. Glass doesn't have a fixed melting point and usually only softens slightly at temperatures around 600 degrees Celsius, so burning a small amount at a time should be safe. The old lady cleared a small area on the balcony for this purpose. Since we were going to burn the trash, it was important to do it carefully to avoid any accidents. The room where the old lady stayed had a large bay window. Since yesterday, Mrs. Alice and I have started huddling together to sleep. The person on night watch lays thick quilts on the window seat and watches outside through a lifted corner of the curtain, while the other person sleeps in bed with Mrs. Alice. The temperature has dropped rapidly. By 8 o'clock in the evening, under the dim street lights, I could see a thick layer of snow accumulated on the ground of our neighborhood. Alice brought out 2 more quilts, one to lay underneath us, and another to cover us. These were quilts brought from Mrs. Alice's house, each weighing about 10 kilos, filled with cotton. Both Alice and I were used to thin duvets, as we had air conditioning year-round. If it weren't for Mrs. Alice, this winter would have been very challenging for us. Mrs. Alice's bed was warm enough, and today she was in the mood to tell us stories. We curled up under the quilts listening to her, and when it was time for my shift to watch, Mrs. Alice handed me a hand warmer. "I just hope you and Alice stay well," she said. "These are hard times." On the 23rd day since the zombie outbreak, Alice, who had saved numerous cooking videos, insisted on showing off her cooking skills. Mrs. Alice and I leaned against the kitchen doorway watching her when suddenly we heard the sound of a vehicle braking sharply. Mrs. Alice and I exchanged glances and immediately rushed to the window. Mrs. Alice went to remind Alice, who was engrossed in cooking, to check for any drafts in the house, fearing that the smell from inside might escape. The curtains were thick, and Alice's apartment was high up, making it nearly impossible for us to be spotted. But knowing this didn't alleviate our fears. We had no means of defense and could only hide in our home. Peeking through a corner of the curtain, we saw 2 trucks arrive, and by the time Alice checked the vents and returned, about 20 people in camouflage with some carrying guns had already descended and casually settled on a cleared spot. They even started a fire and set up a pot on it. Despite the thick snow, their uniforms and demeanor exuded a deceptive sense of trust. For a while, none of us spoke until Mrs. Alice whispered, "They can't be soldiers, believe me, they must be desperados." Truth be told, Alice and I had somewhat realized this, but our desperate hope for national rescue kept us from acknowledging their true identity. In just a short time, those people had already begun to eat. Since the outbreak, food had become an enormous temptation. It wasn't 5 minutes before a voice from one of the building's units asked, "Are you here to rescue us?" That was it. The group stood up and saluted. "Yes, please don't panic. We will be distributing water and food shortly." We immediately let go of the curtain, fearing that the offer to distribute food was a trap, luring more people out before the apocalypse. People were labor. Now, they are not only labor but also potential food. Mrs. Alice brought over 3 cups of soy milk. We dared not eat anything with a strong scent, so we stuck to soy milk and bread. The atmosphere was tense. After a long silence, Alice finally said, "What do you think they're planning?" I didn't know what they intended to do, but it certainly wasn't anything good. The main reason I bought this apartment was for its security. The material of the fire doors on each floor is robust. Now that the power is out, even if they chop their way up floor by floor, it will take time. Let's use this time to think carefully about what to do. I knew Alice was trying to shift us quickly from our pessimism. Hearing this, I also said, "Yes, exactly. Moreover, Alice's door is like a bank vault. It's very secure. We'll definitely be safe." We didn't have the luxury to consider what might happen to them, as those people had just finished their meal and were now busy shooting zombies. 1 shot per zombie. There weren't many zombies in our area, but their gunfire had attracted those nearby. The zombies came sporadically, so taking them down one by one was no pressure. We knew these people couldn't be trusted, but that didn't mean everyone else in the neighborhood knew. Children started cheering, calling them big heroes. Are there other survivors in the neighborhood? If the safety of your residential unit cannot be assured, we will send people to escort you. With these words, The credibility of that group increased significantly in a short time. Quite a crowd had gathered downstairs. Children stood in front of these people, saluting cutely while offering the best they could manage. Honestly, our initial plan was to use noise to attract all nearby zombies and force a life or death fight. Even if those people won, it would certainly result in heavy casualties. But now, with so many ordinary people downstairs, if we attracted zombies, these people would bear the brunt. In these apocalyptic times, survival is already difficult enough. It's hard to find hope, only to realize it's a slaughterer's revelry. That's not redemption for them. For 3 days straight, those people didn't search the buildings. They just ostentatiously camped there, using food to lure all the nearby survivors. Alice and I discussed privately that these people probably wanted to use this neighborhood as a base. Given its strategic location, on the morning of the 5th day, half asleep, I suddenly heard a gunshot. The old lady was watering her plants and nearly dropped her watering can at the sound. When I got there, Alice was already watching. I saw what looked like the leader of the group pointing a gun at a man's head. I remembered that man. He had arrived the day after those people. He drove a black van, brought his pregnant wife, and knelt on the ground crying like a child, thanking the country. Watching this had brought tears to mine and Alice's eyes, but just a few days later, those he revered as deities had turned their guns on him. Do you think they are the People's Liberation Army? They killed my wife. She was pregnant. The baby was 7 months along, and I was about to be a father. The newcomers might have known that these were not the government rescue teams, but they were too scared and preferred to entrust their lives to others. Right after the man shouted, I heard another gunshot, the blood staining the snow. No one approached. No one spoke. Everyone just silently listened to the man with the gun. The country doesn't want you anymore. Now I'm your boss. Bullshit. Then, the sound of brakes screeching echoed again as several cars approached, and a man with a heavy voice remarked, Impressive, you took over the prison as soon as the disaster struck. The nearby zombies had almost been wiped out, and gunfire erupted again. I boldly looked down to see 2 groups clashing. Thankfully, those people, fearful of survivors coveting their supplies, had all the survivors stand aside during meals, which meant the shootout had almost no civilian casualties. After the shootout, the newcomers won. They glanced at the survivors, said nothing, and just turned and left. About half an hour later, the surviving individuals timidly crawled out from the back, climbed onto a large truck, retrieved their confiscated car keys, supported their families, and sped away in their cars. I don't know if this incident will affect their trust in Z country's military, but the people of Z country are inherently kind and will grow rapidly in adversity. In the prosperous era, we celebrate peace. We were on edge for several days, never expecting such an outcome. After sighing, the elderly lady went to the kitchen to cook. For the past few days, we had been casually subsisting on milk and bread, too apprehensive to cook proper meals. The elderly lady had already harvested a crop of garlic sprouts and was now on her second. Alice suggested making garlic pancakes since we had plenty of flour at home, 40 large bags, some of which were nearing expiration. It seemed prudent to use them up. No sooner said than done. With our eggs dwindling, Alice proposed making egg pancakes to at least savor the taste of eggs, as other recipes might not even retain the egg flavor. Chives had also been planted. They grow quickly. Once harvested, we could make chive pancakes. A few days ago, it had rained. We collected some rainwater, threw in a purification tablet, and it was almost clean enough to wash clothes and dishes. The elderly lady was an excellent cook. As soon as the garlic pancakes were ready, Alice and I, unafraid of the heat, grabbed and ate them, almost as if the apocalypse hadn't yet arrived. Roars echoed through the neighborhood, drawn by the scent of blood. These were zombies, Alice and I counted yesterday. It seems we were the only foolhardy family left in the complex. It wasn't that others hadn't noticed something was amiss. They were simply accustomed to following the crowd, accustomed to entrusting their lives to others. The apocalypse was unbearably tough. Would more people make a difference? Day 48 of the zombie outbreak. Last night, it suddenly started raining, and the temperature dropped again. The experienced elderly lady declared it was almost -20 degrees. A cold this severe she had only experienced a few times in her long life. It was terribly cold. The 3 of us huddled under the blankets, unable to leave the warmth. Since the outbreak began, the zombies seem to have evolved, becoming more sensitive to sounds. A few days ago, Alice was watering plants and accidentally knocked over the garlic sprouts on the balcony, immediately drawing the gaze of a dozen zombies. We dared not turn on the air conditioning, although zombies can't climb up for now, only howling below. What if they evolve again? All 5 of Alice's hand warmers were in use. Snug under the blankets, despite her age, the elderly lady was much warmer than Alice and me, who felt like icy skeletons. The biting cold seemed to permeate the entire house. We still had some pepper powder, so the elderly lady simply made a cabbage and kelp soup for lunch, adding some pepper for a spicy warmth. The colder it gets, the more one needs to eat. After eating, we immediately went back to bed. Alice found a deck of cards in the corner, and we started playing Fight the Landlord. In the afternoon, it began to snow again, mixing with the rain and forming ice. Remembering the stocked cured meat, the three of us decided to stir-fry garlic shoots with cured meat. The planning mainly involved Alice and me. We're useless at most things, good only for eating and sleeping. **** Day 59 of the zombie outbreak. **** The weather grew colder, and by the calendar of days before the outbreak, it should be January after the New Year. People of Z country inherently cherish their homeland, even in perilous times, longing for a hint of the festive season. This was the least festive New Year I've ever experienced since I was born. Perhaps due to the severe cold, the zombies seemed less active. These days, we often saw cars speeding away, though where they were headed was anyone's guess. Cold weather makes people crave warm meals, comforting soups and broths. It was too cold to knead dough, so I fetched 3 packets of some brand's tomato instant noodles from the storeroom. Just boiling some water and mixing it into the bowl was enough to warm us up. It's embarrassing to admit, but if it were warm, Alice's house wouldn't lack light clothing, and there's even a silent fan, but the cold is truly relentless. We really were wearing the thickest clothes we had. As I was quickly slurping down a bowl of tomato noodles, a sudden clamor erupted in the neighborhood. I rushed to the window to check out the commotion. A woman, dressed in a bright yellow jacket, appeared out of nowhere, sprinting and screaming for help with 3 or 4 zombies in hot pursuit. Alice, having finished her meal too, joined me to watch the unfolding scene. Frankly, we have ample supplies here, enough to last us about 3 to 4 years, which should be sufficient time for a governmental rescue to arrive. If help hasn't arrived after that time, there might be no point in waiting any longer. However, I had no intention of playing the hero. To be precise, none of us planned on helping, call us cold-hearted or whatever. But how can one be sure whether those you help are human or something else? Though that was our stance, watching someone desperately trying to escape stirred a sense of compassion in us, albeit briefly. Luckily, our dilemma didn't last long. Out of nowhere, a car sped up behind the woman, a gun protruded from its window, and with precise shots, the zombies were taken down. The car stopped, and the woman quickly jumped in. They were in it together. Indeed, they were. The whole setup relied on the woman's ability to draw sympathy, ensnaring any would-be rescuers into the clutches of those following in the car. Although we hadn't planned to help, realizing this still sent a chill through us, distracting us during our card game that afternoon. Alice, clearly preoccupied, mistakenly played a pair of aces as if they were 7s. Let's not dwell on it. We just need to take care of ourselves. Day 60 of the zombie outbreak. Alice fell ill, and it hit her hard. The old lady, who was with us, discovered it last night. Due to her age, she tends to wake up suddenly during the night, and she uses those moments to check on us. Last night, while I was on duty, she was covering Alice with a blanket and noticed that Alice was burning up. She urgently called me to fetch a thermometer. The reading was alarmingly high, nearly 38.5 degrees Celsius. Panicked, I dashed out to grab the first aid kit. It was packed with various medications, which I handed over to the old lady while I went to boil some water and fetch some fever patches. It's probably the severe cold lately. Indeed, the recent temperatures have been unusually low. Even those of us with thick blankets are freezing. How must others be coping in this catastrophe? The old lady and I stayed busy until dawn, and it was only then that Alice opened her eyes, her voice hoarse. Could you get me some water? Alice's illness was a significant blow to us, not because it was severe, but because it underscored the dangers of the cold. She merely had a fever now. But what if it gets colder? Would she pass away silently in her sleep, or freeze to death while still conscious? This wake-up call was both urgent and heavy. The next morning, while cooking, I thought about how to combat the cold. Suddenly, I remembered the yoga mats at Alice's house. We could do some exercises, maybe some aerobics, to improve our blood circulation. Starting today, we began doing daily exercises. Alice and I, who hadn't exercised since high school and had since settled into less active lifestyles, now found ourselves feeling older than the old lady. During these sessions, during dinner, the old lady added some pepper to the dishes to ward off the cold. I have eczema, which usually flares up with spices like pepper, but the cold was so severe that I couldn't worry about that now. Surviving was the priority. After learning about my condition, the old lady dug through her herbal supplies and brewed a concoction for me. She insisted I drink the medicine while urging me to go to bed early. On the 63rd day of the zombie outbreak, the temperature still hadn't risen, but with the meticulous care of the old lady, the young bok choy we planted was surprisingly edible, perhaps because it was homegrown. I always found this bok choy tastier than what we used to buy at supermarkets before the apocalypse. At noon, the old lady stir-fried the bok choy and made some curry rice. A few days ago, a family of 3 arrived in our community, driving an SUV. They casually picked a building and moved in. It must be said, the combat strength of this family of 3 was formidable. Within a few days, they had nearly cleared all the zombies in the community. It was clear that they were looking for a place to settle down. Since the outbreak began, resources in the city have been dwindling. Furthermore, City A is neither a national central area nor a coastal region. Thus, the state has been busy rescuing other cities and hasn't gotten around to us yet. After lunch, as I watered the plants, I saw that family return in their car, carrying loads of supplies. Having worked long hours at a 996 company, my eyesight isn't great, so I asked Alice to take a look. Squinting, she observed for a while and said, "It looks like mostly food." That night, a drone suddenly appeared, its tail adorned with a small red flag and carrying food and medicine. Of course, this was what Alice, who has good eyesight, told me regrettably. The drone didn't announce its presence as they do in novels. It simply dispersed the supplies from above. Nowadays, anyone still alive surely arranges for someone to keep watch at night. So the families that survived probably all knew about the drone dropping supplies. Alice and I watched from the window as the family left their building. The parents kept watch while their son quickly gathered the supplies and hurried back inside. I think I saw them pick up a piece of paper, Alice said. Even with Alice's good eyesight, the darkness of night and the distance from our 20-something floor vantage point made it hard to see clearly. Since we couldn't make it out, we decided not to dwell on it. Honestly, the variety shows and dramas I downloaded were far less interesting than listening to the old lady tell stories every night. She has lived through half a lifetime, effortlessly recounting various folklore and occasionally indulging Alice and me with ghost stories when we felt like scaring ourselves. With her vast knowledge, her stories could keep us engaged all night without feeling sleepy. Having waited so long for what seemed like a drone dispatched by the state, Alice and I had felt disheartened before. The old lady didn't say much, but the next day, like comforting children, she crafted a small rabbit out of dough for each of us. Why worry? We've survived so many disasters. What's one more? Adversity leads to prosperity. It seems the older generation always has an inexplicable trust in the country, always believing that no matter the disaster, we will prevail and that improvement is just a matter of time. The old lady also knew about the drone but didn't show much excitement. Alice and I quietly noted to each other, "See, that's someone who has weathered great storms." That afternoon, I saw the old lady pacing around the house, occasionally peeking out through a small gap in the curtains to check the sky outside. She probably realized her behavior was a bit unsteady and tried to cover it up by commenting, "Look how blue the sky is outside." Day 67 of the zombie outbreak. Today, while on duty, I thought I saw several jeeps speeding through the city, their bodies painted in camouflage. Alice's area is now essentially a suburb of the city. Alice brought over a telescope, and we watched together. The jeeps stopped in an open area, and several people in military uniforms got out and quickly formed a perimeter. A military truck followed shortly after, but our view was limited, and after the group ate something, they continued on their journey and we could no longer see them. However, I thought I saw them scattering some kind of powder on the road they traveled. Despite the loud noise, no zombies gathered around. Even though these people might be soldiers, it's unlikely they could eliminate all the city's zombies. There must be another reason. That's the medicinal powder taking effect. Through days of observation, there are only 6 living people left in this neighborhood. Oddly, the number of zombies outside doesn't seem to have increased. Alice and I are considering taking a gamble. The group of survivors we spotted earlier isn't too far from this neighborhood, probably within the drone's range. We still have a few drones at home, and we plan to attach our phones to them for aerial photography. We've considered the risks, and they are there, but not significant. There aren't many survivors in City A, and we are located on the 20-something floor of a building. Even if the survivors spot the drone, it would take them some time to figure out where it was launched from. By the time they figure it out and decide to come over, they'd have to face a multitude of zombies outside. Even if they managed to overcome these obstacles and reach us, they would still have to break through the security doors of these 20-plus floors. Luckily, we've locked all these doors over the past few days. It's fortunate that although there are zombies in this building, they are confined within their homes, effectively trapping themselves. After discussing our plan with the old lady, she wholeheartedly agreed and even watched the drone fly away with amazement. As we suspected, the road the military had taken was clearly marked with shiny white powder, and it seemed that the surrounding zombies were completely unaware of its existence, with none of them taking that path. It's been over 2 months since the zombie outbreak began. Those who were infected early on have turned gray and white. It's unclear what sustains them, yet they still manage to run and jump after so many days. The footage captured by the phone is too Shocking. After scrolling through it once, I don't want to watch it again. I even lost my appetite for lunch. We would be lying if we said we didn't want that medicinal powder, but it's not worth the risk for us to collect it, especially based on mere speculation. But to our surprise, someone has brought the powder right to our doorstep. In the evening, a drone suddenly appeared, wobbling as if it had been hastily assembled. Clearly not a commercially bought model from the moment the drone emerged. Alice and I kept our eyes on it. It flew closer and closer until it hovered just outside the window, not moving anywhere else, as if it was sure there were people inside. Should we open the window? Since the other party had sent a drone, they must have confirmed that there were people in the house. Whether we opened the window or not wouldn't make much difference at this point. Thinking this, Alice and I cautiously opened the window and retrieved the items from the drone, which then flew away. Hanging beneath the drone was a small basket containing a note and a small packet of white powder. Hello, firstly, we believe you've noticed we mean no harm. This medicinal powder was collected along our journey. We'd like to exchange this packet of powder for some supplies. I pulled the thick curtains closed again and called everyone in the house to the living room for a brief meeting. It's clear they're not lacking in supplies, and they're not weak. Why would they want to trade with us? I started with a question. There's something I thought wasn't a big deal, so I didn't mention it before. A few days ago, while I was on duty, someone sneaked into our building in the middle of the night. Since there's been a power outage, the main door on the first floor can be easily opened. I can only confirm that he came in, but I don't know what he did. Alice spoke up. Several street lights in the neighborhood had broken over the months of cold weather, and she couldn't clearly describe the person, only vaguely determining it was probably a man. Hearing this, the old lady immediately declared that this household had something to gain. Don't agree. As she spoke, she took the packet of white powder, even putting on medical gloves to handle it. Who touched this just now? Quick, go disinfect it with alcohol. You can never be too careful. I hurriedly took Alice to spray alcohol, while the old lady opened another window and shook the white powder out. This side faced the outside of the complex, where there were plenty of zombies. A lot of the powder was poured down, but the zombies only reacted slightly. Some of it must have been collected by them, and the rest was exchanged for goods. First off, we don't know how long the effects of this powder last. Even if we argue that the powder is ineffective, they could simply claim that its potency has evaporated. The bag containing the powder was also thrown down. The old lady spoke up. Agree to their terms. Give them some food first and watch what happens. I'm curious to see what these fools are up to. The old lady was well educated and had read widely, which was something Alice and I hadn't realized until we heard her swear for the first time. Alice deployed a drone, loaded it with some instant noodles, thought for a moment, and added some medicine as well. She also included a note. Thank you so much. Day 78 of the zombie outbreak. After 11 days of laying our trap, we finally caught something. Alice removed a note from the drone that read, we really didn't mean to disturb you, but from our recent observations, the number of zombies is increasing. Some of them have even started showing signs of intelligence. Our floor is too low and too dangerous. Please let us stay with you. We had set the trap for 11 days, successfully making them believe that there were only two of us, a sister and her younger sibling. Honestly, Alice and I might not have seen through their scheme, but the old lady saw right through them. They must have noticed some activity here at some point and want to steal from us. We had set the trap, but we hadn't yet discussed exactly what to do next. Alice sent back a note saying we needed to discuss further. It was certain that this family was not from our complex. Beyond that, we were in the dark. In my opinion, we could lure them here and have the zombies take care of them on the way, but the old lady disagreed, so that plan was scrapped. Day 83 of the zombie outbreak. Unexpectedly, while we were still planning our next move, they went and doomed themselves. It all started early in the morning. Just after Alice's shift ended, she saw a family of 3 returning to the complex in their car, bringing with them a young girl. The old lady peered over and muttered to herself, could these people really be that benevolent? At this stage, with city supplies dwindling, heading out and coming back with a little girl seemed like an act of great kindness. This piqued our curiosity. Alice went to another window and launched the drone. We had observed in recent days that if we were careful enough, we could fly the drone around unnoticed. Not long after the drone left, one of the children ran out of the building, got into the car, but crashed into a railing shortly after starting the engine. I signaled to Alice, who maneuvered the drone back, then hovered near the crashed car for a while. After retrieving the drone, we hurriedly checked the video on the phone. We saw that as the family with the little girl opened their door, a zombie burst out from nowhere and latched onto someone. Instead of dealing a deadly blow, their first reaction was to fetch a rope to tie up the zombie very carefully, as if afraid to hurt it, deliberately avoiding the zombie's head. The drone was a bit far, so we could only hear the woman saying, what happened? Xiaotian, why didn't you tie up your grandfather before we left? Suddenly, the little girl bitten by the zombie retaliated by biting her father's hand. The situation quickly descended into chaos, and from the footage transmitted by the drone in the car, it appeared that the entire family turned into zombies. For a moment, I didn't know whether to say this family was truly caring, constantly on the move with their zombified grandfather, or just terribly foolish. After watching for a while, the old lady concluded, they probably intended to use us to feed the zombies. Following this grim conclusion, we decided to lighten the mood by casting a variety show on the iPad after dinner. As the variety show was coming to an end, Alice suddenly said, if I ever turn into a zombie, don't hesitate, kill me immediately. Before I could respond, an elderly lady slapped Alice on the head, scolding, nonsense, what are you blabbering about? Day 103 of the zombie outbreak. Last night, the temperature rose, making my cotton uniform feel excessively heavy during my night shift. Afraid to undress carelessly, I ended up sweating profusely by morning. The elderly lady hurriedly made me change my clothes, served me some hot water, and after eating, she hurried me off to bed. When I woke up in the afternoon, I noticed it had started raining. Just as I was about to comment on the rain and wonder if it would bring cooler weather, I saw Alice and the elderly lady sitting on the sofa with grave expressions. This rain is probably not ordinary. Seeing my confused look, Alice pulled me over to the window, opened a corner of the curtain for me to look outside, and what I saw was a dense crowd of zombies. It was unclear where these zombies had come from. Perhaps they had been hidden in unseen corners before. They all stood there, not wandering around as usual, but instead making growling noises. The rain had darkened the sky, and the mere sight of the zombies standing there was frightening enough. They looked up with their faces pale and defeated. Frightened, I quickly closed the curtains. Perhaps I was too loud, but as I pulled the curtain, I noticed some zombies seemed to look our way. What's going on? Wasn't everything fine this morning? You probably just fell asleep not long ago. 2 airplanes came by, and right after they left, it started raining. By noon, it had turned into this. I had woken up because I was hungry, but now, seeing this scene, I lost my appetite and could only sip some hot water. With so many zombies, we had to speak very cautiously even at home. Let it be. Don't overthink. All we could do now was pray that this rain was intentionally caused by the government, beneficial without any harm, as there was really nothing else we could do. Around 8 p.m., suddenly there was noise from downstairs, like an army marching. Alice and I cautiously opened the curtain to look, and saw the crowd of zombies dispersing again, but because there were so many, the noise was inevitably loud. The noise lasted for about half an hour, and then the zombies disappeared. I had a feeling that this situation might occur again in the next day or two. I shared my guess with Alice and the elderly lady. The elderly lady immediately went to the kitchen. Then I'll cook some dishes now. If it continues like this tomorrow, cooking will make too much noise. We can just warm up the leftovers in the microwave. Alice and I tidied up a bit and decided to sleep on the living room sofa tonight to ensure we could wake up immediately if there was any disturbance. Sure enough, early in the morning, I was awakened by the sound of airplanes, just as Alice had described, right after the planes left. The rain started, heavier than yesterday, sweeping across the sky as if it were washing away all the filth. Soon after, zombies appeared from nowhere again. After the elderly lady got up, she heated up some plain porridge and served it with pickles, while saying, I think something in this rain suppresses the zombies' movements. Just wait, I guess this catastrophe will end in less than half a year. This situation continued for a few days, and eventually, Alice and I could even eat our meals while watching the zombies foolishly standing in the rain. Day 111 of the zombie outbreak. Today, finally, there were no airplanes disturbing our early morning peace, but in the afternoon, planes came to spread medicine powder. Although the planes flew high and the powder dispersing in the air was not very obvious, they spread so much that initially, Alice and I thought it was poplar fluff. Eventually, Alice sighed. The state really spares no expense. Once the powder was spread, the zombies on the ground stood still like dazed geese. Although we didn't know the specific use of the previous day's rain, it definitely had an effect. Since everything seemed to be moving in a positive direction, we decided to have hot pot for lunch. My knife skills are not great, but after slicing 2 pieces of meat, the old lady hurried me out of the kitchen. As she pushed me out, she stuffed a handful of mint leaves into my hand and said, the way you cut the meat, it's hardly fit for stir-frying. Off you go, make yourself some mint tea. The mint had actually come from the old lady's own garden. I must say, her presence alone lifted our living standards by more than a notch. Day 127 of the zombie outbreak. Finally, there were no more disturbances, no planes or drones flying overhead. One evening, as Alice and I struggled to make out anything with our binoculars, we ended up hearing the sound of a car engine. It came and went swiftly, barely allowing us a glimpse of a passing light before disappearing. Why hasn't National Rescue reached city yet? I wondered aloud. Alice, applying a face mask, replied, our neighboring city is known as an international metropolis, isn't it? They'll prioritize that area first, where more people mean more zombies. We wouldn't want to be caught between fronts. Though she said this casually, the very next afternoon, we heard distant gunfire that grew increasingly louder and closer. Unsure if zombies were still around our area, Alice and I quickly pulled back the curtains to see. There, advancing from a distance, was the army, clad in camouflage and armed, marching in a disciplined and serious manner. It was still daylight, and behind the soldiers fluttered a red flag. Amidst the continuous gunfire, loudspeakers blared something that was hard to make out at first due to the noise. Alice rushed back inside and grabbed the small red flag she bought last National Day, waving it from our high-rise, regardless of whether it could be seen or not. The gunshots drew nearer, and the loudspeaker announcements became clearer. Citizens, please stay indoors. We will soon clear out all zombies. Where you see the red flag, you will find safety. Tears welled up in my eyes as I turned to see Alice and the old lady, both with tears streaming down their faces. The apocalypse was over. We were born here. Every inch of this land is ours. Epilogue. The old lady. After the military cleared the zombies from City A sizable city, they would need to continue pushing inland. Julia participated in the post-disaster reconstruction. Oh, I forgot to mention, Julia is the old lady. Julia felt her life had truly been extraordinary. In her youth, she was sent to the countryside as part of the Up to the Mountains and Down to the Countryside movement. She was widowed in middle age, and now, in her later years, she had experienced a zombie apocalypse straight out of a movie. To be honest, regarding the anti-human virus, she said we'd have to wait for various analyses before considering traditional Chinese medicine solutions, so she ended up attending daily research meetings with a group of old scholars. The impact of this catastrophe on humanity was immense. Occasionally, when she had a moment to herself, Julia remembered the phone call from her daughter, who said, "Mom, there are zombies outside. I don't think I'll make it. I regret not being able to repay you in this lifetime." What was there to regret? Julia wasn't sure when Alice called. Julia, she was contemplating how to die with dignity, with as little pain as possible. She had endured so much in her life, and her only daughter had died abroad. Whether she became a wandering soul in a foreign land or a deceiving star, her daughter was never coming back. When Alice came to fetch Julia, it suddenly struck her, yes, there was still Alice, and so many others. Why should those alive wish for death? What could death achieve? She had to survive, wait for national rescue, and then find a way to eradicate the virus to avenge her daughter. Doctor, I heard you have another daughter. Perhaps the calamity had been so fierce that it simplified people's interactions and their way of speaking. Yes, unfortunately, she died in a foreign land. The lab fell into immediate silence. Julia finished recording the data and left the lab, hearing someone inside say, "At this point, we really shouldn't bring up family matters." As days were counted, time seemed to speed up. By the 153rd day of the zombie outbreak, the zombies within the country had been completely eradicated, and the vaccine developed by the Research Institute was proven effective after clinical trials. Julia's work was nearly done. Her next visit to the institute was when she was asked to help with post-disaster reconstruction in Country M. Country Z was well organized, being the first in the world to clear out the zombies, and naturally, international requests for support followed. Julia went, not so much out of a sense of grand duty, but to visit the country where her daughter had lived. The coastline was too far, and her longing too deep. She feared her daughter's spirit couldn't traverse the thousands of kilometers, and she feared having idle time. Julia continued to visit many countries for rescue missions. Suddenly, Julia remembered a book she had read in her youth, which contained a line that had made a lasting impression on her. In this bustling world, there must always be those who scatter a handful of mercy, shoulder the candlelight, and continue moving forward.